Good evening and welcome commissioners, participants, and interested parties to the July 11th, 2024 meeting, the Cohasset Conservation Commission. Commission is now in session on a Zoom platform. I'm Tom Bell, Chair of the Cohasset Conservation Commission, and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts and Cohasset Wetlands Protection Acts and the Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. If anyone in the audience has questions for the commission, put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of the page, and when called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. You must include your name and address to be recognized. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and the town's Conservation Agent, Charlotte Pechtel. We'll now take a roll call vote of the commissioners. Conservation Commissioners, please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Chris McIntyre. Chris McIntyre.
Sorry, Chris McIntyre, present.
Sanjay Fernando.
Sanjay Fernando, present.
And hopefully Tom Bell present, and hopefully Valeria Romano will join us shortly. So tonight we currently have a quorum of 4 commissioners. Will be taking all votes via a roll call vote, with each commissioner saying yay, nay, or abstain. Before proceeding to the public hearings, the following public hearings are continued. NOI 2420, Mass DOT. It's an update to the sidewalk for Sawyer Street. NOI 2417, Stormwater Permit 2416, 195 Sawyer Street, formerly 193. New family dwelling. That's continued to 7/25/24. Oh, I didn't mention that the MassDOT is also continued to 7/24/25, 7/25/24. NOI 2418, 24 Little Harbor Road. Remove invasives, add patio. Bradley continued until 7/25/24. Enforcement order 34 Flintlock Ridge Road. Sexton Kent continued to 7/25/24. Enforcement order at 280 Beechwood Street continued to 7/25/24. Show cause for North Main Street, parcel ID C4 14070. Land alteration that's continued to 7/25/24. Show cause for 6364 Chief Justice Cushing Highway intermittent stream alteration that's continued to some later date. Show cause hearing for 44 Atlantic, NOI 2012, Stormwater Permit 2020, stormwater infiltration, also continued to a later date, unspecified as yet. Show cause for 81 Fair Oaks Lane, NOI 23-3. Stormwater Permit 23-3, retaining wall buffer zone encroachment, continued to a later date. So we still don't have Valeria, do we? First is resumption then of our public hearing for NOI 2414, 159 Atlantic Avenue. That's been continued from 6/25/24. Charlotte, you want to introduce the applicant?
Sure. Let's see. So we have Charlie and Ginevra Higginson, the applicants, and Brendan Sullivan from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors.
Evening. For the record, Brendan Sullivan with Merrill Associates, representing the owner, the Higginsons at 159 Atlantic Ave. Pull up the revised plan we have. So this is continued from a couple meetings ago. Since the last meeting, we got some comments and we've adjusted the plan accordingly. So we did have John Zimmer go out in wetland, add some wetland flags to the ditch to delineate the wetlands and the inland bank for the ditch that runs through the property. wetland flags 1 through 24, I believe on there. We've relocated the mitigation area to be entirely on this property. The property is now known as 32 Lothrop Lane, has a new address. And I've contacted DEP, and they've changed the locus for the locus of the lot is now 32 Lothrop Lane, not 159 Atlantic Ave. The driveway has been relocated to pull it away from the property line a little bit and avoid a couple more of to pull it away from these larger trees, the 26-inch and 14-inch tree that are closer to the property line. So we're going around those trees now. We've added a future dwelling to be permitted at a later date. We were asked to show that to give you an idea of to show what the purpose is of the gravel driveway. Let's see, what else was there? I added a note to the drainage pipe for the drainage pipe to be inspected prior to construction and replaced as necessary in this area under the existing gravel drive wood chip area at the beginning where it comes off of Lothrop Lane. We came up with an alternative access for the lot off of Atlantic Ave. This access would include include the removal of about 5 to 7 12-inch trees or over. It also goes over some ledge outcrops and some cut and fill areas. So we feel that the better access point for the locus is off of Lothrop Lane. That would also require an easement over the existing lot to get out to that rear portion of the buildable portion of what's now 32 Lothrop Lane. I think that's about it at this point. Take your questions and comments.
Commissioners?
Can you describe, can you go over again why you think the easement across the other property, like what was that again? There's ledge there or?
Yes, there's a number of ledge outcrops in this area here. There's also, it's all wooded, so it'll be, clear cutting. Like I said, it'd be at least 5 to 7 trees of 12 inches or over. I don't know how many more, smaller trees there would be. And it would be a longer route off of Atlantic Ave. We just think it would be more disruptive than the route we have going over, which is pretty much already, disturbed
But the
area.
point is like the alternative path wouldn't be in any buffer zone?
That would be correct.
Okay.
Further questions?
So the current path is removing how many trees? What are the squares again? Sorry,
So the squares are the existing trees where we will be protecting. There's the 3 major holly trees here. There's a tree here as well. These 2 trees, the ones we're taking down, this one, I believe this one is actually even dead, this one here. And we're replacing them with, we have 4 trees we're replacing. And also the mitigation area as well in this area here. The 1,100 square feet of mitigation. And it's, this area is already really kind of degraded, where the area of the other access is really, there's hardly any lawn area over there. It's mostly called forested. It's really wooded as opposed to what's over here. This is really an overgrown privet area. There's a couple garden areas, some dead trees going on in there. So we just feel this is a less impactful area to get to the buildable portion of the lot.
Charlotte, would you call up near map and let's refresh our memories about what the lay of the land is here?
Yeah, I can pull that up 1 second.
Thanks.
Probably doesn't like I have 15,000 tabs open.
Yeah, probably not.
So this right here would be the,
So
this is the drainage pipe and intermittent, stream.
so how much of will any of the driveway be on that lawn area? Let me be more general. How much of the driveway is going to be on just what's already disturbed, basically landscaping and the lawn in particular?
Well, with their proposed driveway,
Yeah,
I mean, I would say, almost all of it. There's only in that area, it's like I said, other than the overgrown privet hedge, there's a couple garden areas there. Like I said, we're taking down 2 trees. One of them is dead. That there's throughout the property, there's many, garden areas, trees that have been planted for landscaping.
is that tennis court straddling the 2 lots now?
No, the tennis court is entirely on the lot for 159.
So if you were to mitigate the disturbance in the buffer zones, where could you do it?
On our lot?
Yeah.
Well, the area that I proposed between the gravel driveway and the ditch, we could do some additional on the other side of the driveway. We might be able to extend the mitigation along the bottom of the driveway.
Yeah,
I don't know, if, Brendan, if you wanted to pull up your plan again to show the
Sure.
mitigation areas.
yeah, right. You do have a mitigation plan, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's have a look at that.
Well, it's the same plan as this area in brown here that we're proposing. Like right now it's 1,100 square feet, pretty much going from from the wetland flag line, almost to the edge of the gravel driveway. We could certainly extend that, up to the north up in this area. And also maybe extend it down into this area here. I'd like to try and keep it on the same lot as 150, as 32 Lothrop. We could do some mitigation possibly in amongst these trees over here. There's, like I said, it's this overgrown privet hedge that's there, which is a, non-native. I don't know if you're going to call it invasive, but, so if you want to extend the mitigation to like 2,000 square feet or something like that, we could certainly do that.
What's the area of the driveway that's in the 50 and the 100-foot buffer?
Let's see. don't know, so the.
I see you've got a total there, but I don't see that, I don't
Yeah,
see
I see
anything
the
there
proposed
that,
driveway is almost 2,000 square feet. So maybe half of that's in the 50. The 2,000, I don't know if the 2,000 is just up to the 100 or it comes, my guess is it comes up to here.
so replication in, from disturbance in the 50, generally, I think we like to see about a 2-to-1 ratio. Charlotte, do we have any precedent, we don't have anything that's hard and fast in that, but do you recall approximately how much we do require? I don't know why the 2-to-1 thing there, that's more of a tree thing, I think.
Not, I can double check right now, but nothing to my brain comes specific, at least with our regulations. And this is buffer zone that were, well, partially land subject to coastal storm flowage, but mostly 50-foot buffer. So, I mean, the 50-foot buffer, no disturb is definitely, you know, in our court to discuss. So I think if the commission wanted to see more mitigation as a potential condition for issuing a variance to work in the 50, that if the applicant agrees to that, that's, I think that's reasonable.
Okay, so your current mitigation plan is up, did you say 1,100 square feet, Brendan?
Yes, yep, we 1,100 square feet in this area
Okay.
here.
So, I don't know, I guess I would like to see, well, before I even say that, what is this mitigation gonna consist of? What's your plan here? You have a planting plan?
We're just showing the typical the wildflower seed mix. Nothing in particular. And we do have we are showing 4 proposed trees. I don't have a species for those yet, but I'm sure we could come up with that. It would probably be something that we could take off your, preferred tree list
Mhm.
if you wish.
It sounds a little bit vague to me. I mean, frequently when we see a mitigation or restoration, it's a little more detailed than you've got here.
The effort to put it on the lot is appreciated, but I think I agree with the sentiment that if we're giving up whatever square footage it is in the 50, we'd like to try to match that, and not just a generalized seed mix that could be mowed over at any time. Some more robust planning would definitely make that an easier pill to swallow, in my opinion.
And thinking about our mission, which I think is to conserve wetland, like it's a struggle to know that there is, like, we're not a tree conservancy or a ledge conservancy. Like, it's like, from a mission standpoint, I'm struggling with why not just go over a non-buffer area. If there is an alternative route. At least, I appreciate the considerations for ledge and trees, but it seems like a trade-off for existing wetland. Why would we make that trade-off?
Well, we're talking about the buffer. We're not talking about the resource itself exactly here, so. But that's a good point. I mean, you can avoid all of this by executing your alternative.
Yeah, I think in combination, the fact that there is an alternative, and that we're not really going above and beyond with the mitigation makes it a hard decision. So I think to sell us on this, approach, which is clearly what your client wants, I think we would want to see significantly more than in terms of mitigation. And at this point, I mean, if they've used up all the 50-foot buffer that's, space for mitigation on their property, I wouldn't be opposed to necessarily going into the adjacent as well.
Mr. Chair, I think I see Ginevra raising her hand. I don't know if she wants to weigh in on that.
Who?
Sorry, Ginevra Higginson, she's the applicant.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Ginevra. Sorry, you guys are muted. There you go.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to speak a bit to the mitigation area and also to the trees. We had thought of 2 Sergeant crabs, which do beautifully here, and 2 river birches, which love that area also. And for the mitigation area, we have already planted down by our garage a native plant area, which is really quite wonderful. Blue Stem Nursery has been great in helping me with plants. And it would very much be an area for pollinators, for butterflies, for birds. I think it could be very beautiful there.
Well, I appreciate that sentiment. And I guess I would like to see a formalized landscape plan here, not formalized in the sense that it's a curated planting, but something that goes beyond we could do this or we could do that, which is what we're hearing tonight.
Oh, no, I could be very specific about the planting in the mitigation area.
Okay, but we're not seeing it on a plan.
I'm sorry, I hadn't been asked for it before.
Yeah. I think for us to even consider disturbance in the 50, we would want to see a robust plan here that really was consistent with the local vegetation, not to remake anything, but just to try to maybe. I mean, I understand there's a privet hedge there. They're probably invasives too. We're not asking you to invite any more invasives or plant anything that's not on our list. But ordinarily, when we're talking about restoration, we have some fairly sophisticated plans that usually come before us, and this one seems a bit ad hoc right now. Would you, if you'd like to reconsider that? And continue this until you've had a chance to come up with a formalized plan on paper or digital, then I think that then would give us a better sense of what's going to happen here, and also even though that the alternative is outside of our jurisdiction. Of course, we do tend to look at the whole picture, and the idea of cutting through bedrock and removing trees outside of these buffers is not very appealing to us either. But we don't have any say about that.
I'll be very glad to do a specific drawing for you. I could do it in about 5 minutes. But I don't know how to get it to you immediately.
Yeah, well, you need to submit it in time for if you're going to continue, then you need to submit it about a week in advance. So.
But we can get that for you, Tom. So just to be clear, we're probably looking for, disturbance in the 0 to 50, we're looking for a 2 to 1, and 50 to 100, maybe 1 to 1.
Yeah, I think.
That sound about right?
That would be, I like the sound of that, but I'm only one of 4 here, so.
I'd like to know, I'd like to know why not the alternative plan too, just, trees and rock, like I said, I'm just thinking about our mission, that feels like, if there is an option not to go through any protected areas, our mission is to protect those areas. And so, why not? Why this plan? Why to go through a protected area?
Well, if there is a 2-to-1 replacement of of enhanced buffer zone, it's kind of a win for us, I think. But
Yeah, I mean, with that being said as well, we still need to, that's why I was proposing really the seed mix and not necessarily shrubs in that area, because we still need to get access to that ditch, because it is routinely maintained and does need to be maintained. I was just out there with Charlie last week, and the invert of the outlet, actually the crown of the pipe was below the mud line of the outlet up here. So the ditch needs to be, it needs to be excavated and maintained on a regular basis. I mean, Charlie's in and out of there a number of times a year, clearing it of debris.
is
and
that
throwing
coming
up
through
sediment.
is that runoff coming through the pipe or running into the pipe or running into the ditch rather?
It's running into the ditch. So the pipe comes from the north part and collects the low area from Hobart Lane. And then comes across and discharges here. The
So it's
invert
coming,
here.
so it's coming through the pipe. It's not running from the sides of the ditch down into it, is what you're saying, right?
No, yeah, the sediment comes down through the pipe.
Yeah.
And then collects in the ditch, and then the outlet down here is there's about a foot of head from one end of the ditch to the other. But there still has to meander through a bunch of weeds and debris and everything else that gets caught in there. So that's why I hesitate a little bit to put too many shrubs along the edge of the ditch, because it still needs to be maintained, which it is today. I mean, we're mowing pretty much, right up to the wetland line. On this side across the footbridge, we're probably mowing in the wetland area over here. So, like I said, I mean, we can certainly put up another planting plan together, and propose, like I think it sounds like your recommendation is a 2-to-1 from disturbance, in the 0 to 50 and a 1-to-1 in the 50 to 100, as well as the trees that we're proposing.
Yeah,
Is
let's have a
the-
look, let's have a look at what you guys can come up with. Again, we're not looking for anything that, any kind of curated design. We're looking for random, as natural as possible, let's say.
Yep.
Literally try to restore what the woods were like there.
Mr. Chair, we do have some comments from the audience. Do you want to wrap up what we are looking for here and then address the comments? And I will note I'm sorry, it's been over 15 minutes, but I
Yeah.
figured we'd talk it out a little bit.
Yeah.
So-
So just to make sure that you're clear with what we're requesting. We would like to see a formalized plan. We'd like to see a plant list. We want to know where things are going. It would be helpful if you left a lot of this stuff that is irrelevant off of your drawing next time, just really to be clear about what this is going to look like. And I don't stop thinking about the alternative. Come back to us and tell us how much actual excavation, how much cut and fill would be required for your alternative, and how many trees and what types of trees you're going to remove. So right now, you have a relatively detailed plan here. Your alternative is somewhat simpler. I think just a bit more information for that alternative would help us.
Okay, we can certainly put that together.
Good.
And Mr. Chair, do you want me to, so Miss Lucy Hornby of 36 Lothrop Lane said she'd like to comment, and then there's another comment as well.
I think Mr. Hutchinson wants to speak. He was
Oh,
raised.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure, but if he does, let's let the applicant speak first.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, you're on.
I'm on.
Yes.
On the alternative plan, I think it would be running right next to with a 5-foot buffer with the Murphys. And therefore, the plan we're doing is as far away from the neighbors as possible. I also think that Brendan underestimated the amount of blasting outcrops that in that alternative plan. Finally, what type of trees they are. Most of those are cedars that my father planted about 70 years ago, and that now they're full grown and rather beautiful trees. I'd hate to have to cut them down. Finally, I'd like to point out that this buffer zone at the present time, that's a garden work area for waste grass, so that almost anything that is done there is an improvement both from a vegetation point of view and from a beauty point of view.
Thank you. That's helpful to know that these are the trees that would be removed in the alternative are as 70-year-old trees. So, yeah.
And Brendan, if there's an engineering solution that would kind of mitigate the need to slop out that pit, I'd be open to hearing it personally. I don't know if there is, but.
Well, I mean, it's funny you asked that, because the Higginson had mentioned about filling in the ditch and extending the pipe. I don't know if that would be an option. That is, I mean, we couldn't get rid of it entirely, but like if the ditch is, 150 feet long, we probably have to leave some of it exposed, because that is the tennis court area is a low area that's going to collect water. So I don't think we could entirely, bury a pipe, but that was one of the original solutions was to extend this pipe down further, down probably like towards this first footbridge, and then just bury it over it. I don't think we're there just yet, but that would, because the more, as you know, the more that a ditch is exposed, the more problematic it becomes. If this whole thing was just a pipe, it would be easier, because the water conveyance through the pipe wouldn't be having to go through the weeds and the debris and everything else. But then there's also the issue at the beach, the outlet at the beach is that has to be maintained as well. So, and it's always needed to be extended further down the beach, something similar to on the other side of the beach, like off of Treats Pond.
I don't think that filling a wetland would be looked upon favorably.
Right, and that's what I had mentioned, but
yeah,
Chris mentioned just another engineering solution. That's, engineering wise, that's what, you never like to see an open ditch, conveying water. Usually the closed channel is the best way to go, but I realize that conservation issues here as well.
Yeah, I would think that that a careful selection of the plants, if you have a problem with sediment accumulating in this ditch, it seems like that should be seriously considered on both sides of the driveway here when you're creating your landscape plan. And you should be using plants that are going to prevent that sedimentation from taking place in the ditch in the first place. It looks like there's a lot of bare dirt there in the area, just based on near map here. And were that to be covered, perhaps there wouldn't be as much sediment accumulating there.
Okay, yeah, we'll look into that as well.
Okay, great. So are you requesting a continuance to proceed here?
I believe so. Charlie and Ginevra, are you okay with that?
You're on mute,
The
Mom.
plans. Oh, sorry. Let Dad speak.
Do we need to hear from the butters?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I was gonna say before, can I just go through the comments, and then
Yeah,
I
please.
think might be easier to just promote Ms. Hornby to speak, since she just said we'd like to comment on 159 Atlantic Ave Higginson driveway application. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Lucy. You're muted.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi, thanks very much for taking our comment. I'm representing 36 Lothrop Lane. And first of all, I'd like to say that we do appreciate both the Higginsons and your commission taking our concerns into advisement. Just as a kind of memory tweak, our biggest concern is that the 36 Lothrop Lane property, which is quite low, drains through that pipe. And so, you know, we're quite concerned that as the new driveway goes in, we heard what Mr. Sullivan said 2 meetings ago, that the new owners might not necessarily stick with the plan that he has drawn up. And so we'd very much like the commission to include in the permit that the continued functioning of that pipe be a requirement of the driveway being put there. So whether that means assessing it now, maintaining it in the future, you know, the Higginsons have done that over the years, but they'll no longer be in charge of it. So we'd very much like that to be reflected not only in the plan, but also in your permitting process. Second thing, just now you were mentioning closing up that ditch. From our experience, the water flow is extremely variable coming out of the property. It depends very much on whether there's a storm or not. And so having it open does reflect that variable water flow, and we would be concerned about any solution that might impede the flow of water out of our property, across the new property, under the new driveway, and then into that seasonal pond on the Higginson side. So thanks very much for taking that under consideration.
Is there another comment, Charlotte?
So I can read this one. Tony Catlin here. I believe he's on Hobart. Will abutters get to have a say? Question mark. The Catlin family properties at 7 and 17 feel very strongly that the alternative entry point is far better one than the Lothrop Lane entry point. Not only does that take the buffer zones out of the question, but also leaves the current wetlands as is, and is far less invasive to a very narrow private road. They could also easily replant trees along the Atlantic Ave entry point. We would be far more supportive of this project if the entry point from Atlantic, the decided upon plan. On another note, last time it was noted that this road is a road to nowhere unless the Higginsons are building a house on this new lot. They don't really know what will go there.
Okay, thank you for your comment. So with that, we'll consider all of those next time. And so right now, we're going to close the, we're going to continue the hearing to, what's the date we're going to continue to, Charlotte? The 25th?
So the next project hearing, or the next hearings are the July 25th, August 8th, and August 22nd. Ginevra and Charlie, does July 25th or either meeting in August work for you?
Yeah, July 25th. I do think we bowed out last meeting because it was so late in the evening. This has dragged on for quite a long time, and I really would look at a final decision on July 25th if we continue to that.
Okay, so we're going to continue this to July 25th. Brandon, I think you should think about the comments from the first comment, at least. Actually, both of them. And I don't know that we'd call it an engineering solution per se, but I hadn't really taken a wider view of this. And it seems to me that perhaps, we've been talking about this culvert at the north end. And there's been no mention of a culvert at the south end. I presume there is a culvert there to get to the beach, right?
Oh, there is, yep. There's a culvert
Okay.
that goes from there to the
And
underground to
is
the
that,
beach.
is that culvert adequate? If the water's ponding here, is that culvert adequate to take care of the flow, or should that culvert be larger?
Well, I mean, bigger is always better. It does pond there during, like storm events. I know it ponds there, but they can say that it eventually, like when low tide comes, like I said, it's similar to Treats Pond situation on the other side.
Yeah, right. Right.
So,
Well, there's always a culvert with a tide flapper on it.
yeah, well, it's, the culvert now is buried out in the beach, so it's about a
Oh,
foot.
is that right? Oh, it doesn't flow onto the beach here, huh?
No, it bubbles up from the ground. So it's continually, Charlie has already extended a couple times, and probably needs to be extended again further out into the beach so that it's, so that it stays clear.
You can speak if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you have anything else to add to that guy? Sorry.
I'd like to say that we have at least 3 times and probably 5 times extended this down the beach. When it floods after a storm, or the water comes up after the present culvert, will give me will empty all the water in one time. And the present culvert in the beach is slightly below the sand level, which can change about 12 inches. It did last winter, up and down. I was intending to request a hearing on that. It's not my property, though I have a right of way for a culvert.
Commissioner Bell, like, one thing maybe we could consider, I don't want to delay this unduly for the Higginsons, but like, I'm getting lost in like what's what here. Like, I wonder if we should do a site visit.
I think that would be helpful.
Say yes. Say yes.
Say yes.
A site visit would be great. We would love that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Charlotte, can you arrange that, a date and circulate it to the commissioners, and we'll move on from there.
Sure. And Charlie and Ginevra, if you'd like to email me your preferred availability for, maybe early next week, just let me know, and I can get the commissioner's availability on that.
We'll be very glad to. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're continued to
July 25th.
Okay, next.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is a resumption of our public hearing for a certificate of compliance for NOI 2217 at 22 Atlantic Avenue.
Okay. We'll try to be quick on this one. This was one of the ones that didn't make it on the last agenda. So I'm just promoting Cassandra Spies. She's the applicant. This was a small buffer zone project that was landscaping oriented in nature. They wanted just a small little side yard area, and I can pull up the plan that was approved. No work was in the 50. It just composed of a retaining wall with a swing set and mostly just grass area here. No trees were coming out with this project. So they had submitted an as-built, and I did get some really good photos of the area. In terms of just the deviations, the wall, which I can pull up for the as-built, is just, it's a tad shorter. It doesn't, seem to be an issue in terms of the actual area that was created. But for the most part, that's really the only deviation. And sorry, I'm just trying to find my as-built plan. But the only condition was that the project had to comply with, planning, zoning, building parameters. The wall was just built a tad higher than 3 feet, but it seems like, and Cassandra, let me know if you heard differently. There wasn't any concern from the building inspector in regards to that. That was really the only thing that I noted during my review and inspections. And if the commission were to issue a COC, this is the as-built. So as you can see, it's just a tad shorter than what it was supposed to be. Sorry, this is the retaining wall here. It was supposed to kind of come up, I think, a little bit like this, and they just kind of, left it here. But yeah, like I said, the only conditions I think relative this would just be our standard number 40, no herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers in the buffer zones. And Cassandra, I don't know if you had anything else to add, but that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Charlotte.
So, commissioners, do you have any questions about this? Doesn't seem so. If that case, I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for, where'd my script go? NOI 2217, 22 Atlantic Avenue. Do I have a second?
Did we want the condition 40 with it too? The no herbicides, et cetera one?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Isn't that standard? Isn't that part of our, okay,
We just have to call out which conditions we want.
sure. And it's a reminder to the applicant as well that there are conditions, that being one of them.
Thank you.
Okay, so do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, it's aye. That motion passes 4-0-0.
Right. Thank you, Cassandra. I'll work on getting that to you next week.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Charlotte, no, you haven't heard from Valerio?
I don't, I hope he's okay, but I haven't heard from him since Wednesday. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So next is an update on the septic system for NOI 2113 at 450 King Street.
I think you have to read this one. This is a new project hearing.
Oh, it is?
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, okay. So in accordance with, it's an update to a septic system. No, I don't get it. Update would seem to mean we've already heard it.
No, sorry, I think it's like an upgrade, maybe. Maybe that was
Oh.
a better word we could have chosen.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure. Okay, so in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 11th, 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2217 at 22 Atlantic Avenue.
Hi, Colin.
Hi.
I don't see the applicant in the audience, but if he is here and he wants to raise his hand, I'll promote him.
Yeah, I don't think he's here. I think it's just me.
No worries.
Awesome. So do you want me to share the plan?
Sure. And then
Wait a
just,
minute. I
Oh,
got that
sorry.
wrong. I got that wrong. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to amend that. We're talking about NOI 2113 450 King Street. So if that could be changed in the
oh, sorry, I think it's NOI 2421 for 450 King Street.
oh, really?
Yep, sorry, I'm looking at the agenda.
Okay, the agenda is probably right.
Sorry, Colin, go ahead.
Yeah,
And,
so
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead, sorry.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So like I said, my name is Colin McSweeney. I work for McSweeney Associates. We were hired by the owners of 450 King Street to do a Title V upgrade. What's in place right now is a cesspool that's out in the back here. That's this pink circle here. The wetland line kind of runs through the middle of the lot right here. What we're planning on doing is a pump tank to a geomat system, which I want to note that under the remedial use permit by Mass DEP. The geomat is considered to have treatment. The pump tank is right here. The pipe comes out the back of the house and around the corner here. The only work that's going within the 50-foot would be that 30 feet of pipe. Just because the house is slab on grade, there's really no way to move the plumbing around to get out the front of the house or anything like that. So unfortunately, we have to come out the back. But we're able to get the tank and the field outside the 50. There's really not much to it. If you have any questions, obviously I'm here to answer them.
Commissioners?
I'm so sorry, Colin. Did you say that this was approved by Board of Health this month?
Yes.
or-
Oh, I didn't say that, but thank you for reminding me. It was approved by Board of Health on Monday.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like we have any questions, so in that case, I move that we issue an order of conditions for NOI, which was it? 24 what, Charlotte? I don't know how you
NOI 2421.
2421 at 450 King Street. Do we have any special conditions here? It doesn't really
Oh,
look like
I
it,
had a-
other than the minimal use of mechanized equipment in the 50.
I did have a few, but they're pretty straightforward if you want me to pull them up.
Yeah, would you?
Sure. I guess I only had one. So only, I'm sorry, Colin, I was multitasking here. I think you said only one tree was getting removed for this project and it was outside of the 100-foot buffer, but there were just a couple shrubs around the area where the leaching field's gonna go.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this was more of just a precautionary condition that, sometimes during excavation with these systems, with the extension of the roots, it's sometimes found that there might be more disturbance than anticipated. So I would just recommend a condition about any trees in the buffer zone found to be removed during excavation shall be reviewed and approved by the agent before removal. And then any trees that need to be removed within the buffer zones shall be replaced in kind with a native tree from the commission's approved planting lists. And then Tom, did you have another condition about buffer
I'm
zones?
sorry. Sorry to go back, but I do have a question. Where does the sewer district end on King Street? I'm just wondering.
Real close, but we couldn't tie to it. We looked into that as an option, but we couldn't get over to this because the sewer district ends like 2 houses down or something like that. So we couldn't get within the sewer.
Okay. Sorry. Continue, Charlotte.
Okay. So
That was the only condition I recommended, and I didn't know if Tom had another one.
it's just that the disturbance be minimized here when putting in that sewer pipe. And that any damage to the 50-foot buffer be immediately addressed with planting of native plants.
Any like permanent or damage or temporary damage or just any damage in general?
I would say any damage at all. I mean, you're working within the 50-foot buffer here. Now, there does have to be some thresholds here. I mean,
Well, yeah, just
how wide do you think your work area will be?
I mean, in reality, all it is a trench line. So they're planning on, my guess they would just do it with the mini excavator, just bring it around the back. It's a trench line, probably, I don't know, a foot wide, because it's really just the 4-inch PVC pipe that has to go back there. And then in the corner, there's a clean out, and that's all that's going within the 50. So in reality, there really shouldn't be much disturbance at all from just running the trench line, putting the pipe in, and then just basically filling that dirt back in, letting it go back to grass.
Yeah, okay.
Does
It's all lawn area there too, so it's not even like we're removing
Oh, okay.
anything crazy for
And
that.
you just take that out, Charlotte.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a second?
So
Sure.
sorry, you wanna issue an order conditions with this condition, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Sorry, Kathy, I think you seconded.
Yes,
Did
Berrigan
you- Okay,
seconds.
so Kathy, the next move is to vote.
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Oh, and then you need a variance too.
Yes, right. So I move to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot wetland buffer. You need a second.
Second,
Berrigan second.
Okay, we're gonna vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0. So we're going to
Okay. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. Have a good night.
so the public
Thanks,
hearing for NOI 24.
2421.
2421 is now closed. Okay, next. Did that. So 96 Pond Street looks like next. Okay, so next is a public hearing for an ANRAD 24-22 for 96 Pond Street to approve a wetlands delineation. I'm gonna read it in. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 11th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for ANRAD 24-22 for wetlands delineation. With that, I'm going to recuse myself, but now we don't have a quorum for this particular case.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I can't get my fifth commissioner on the call, and unfortunately, we don't have a quorum to discuss this tonight. So we will continue it to July 25th if you are okay with that.
I guess we don't have a choice. But
Yeah, well, you can always agree to a later continuance, so.
no, we'll punt it to the 25th.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
sorry.
Yep, sorry about that, guys.
That's all right.
Good night.
So
Thank you.
public hearing for NOI
you.
or ANRAD 2422 is continued until July 25th. All right, so next. I'm lost. And what am I doing here?
You're on 9 Linden Circle.
Yeah.
Stormwater
Oh, there we go.
permit.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, back on track. Thanks. Next is a public hearing for a stormwater permit 2420 for 9 Linden Circle in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 11th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for SWP 2420 at 9 Linden Circle.
Hi, Jeff, how's it going? And then I'm sorry, Rob Johnson, the applicant, I'll promote him.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Jeff Acid here with Morse Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the property owners, Robert and Nicole Johnson. This property is 9 Linden Circle, and on behalf of the property owners, we filed a stormwater permit for an addition and a swimming pool. And I'll share my screen and go over that work. So this is the property. Linden Circle is at the top of the page. The lot is a little less than a half acre. It's currently developed with a single family home here with a paved driveway coming off of Linden Circle. And the property is relatively flat. It slopes gently from the rear of the property towards Linden Circle. And then there are catch basins on Linden Circle and on Linden Drive. Now, the property comes up a little bit, few feet in the back of the property, but otherwise most of it is relatively flat. There are no wetlands on the property, nor within 100 feet of the property, and it's outside of the FEMA floodplain. So this is a stormwater permit filing only. The work that we're proposing is to extend the driveway with a pervious driveway to an addition. It's going to be a garage addition off the back of the house here with a side entry garage. And then there are some smaller additions, one being extending the porch and reconstructing the porch in the front. Small addition, about 8 by 10 off the back, and then constructing a new deck. The other part of the project is the swimming pool. The pool is 20 by 40 in the backyard. It'll have a pervious patio. And then there are 2 walls coming up the slope. They're 18 inches tall and 24 inches tall, just kind of to work into the topography there. The additions and the pool all comply with zoning. For stormwater, we're proposing pervious surfaces wherever possible. The driveway will be pervious. The patio and the walkway are also detailed to be pervious. And then all of the roof runoff from the additions, as well as the rear of the existing house, are going to tie into 2 stone trenches located here and here. And those are intended, rather than having the downspouts go right to the ground, it'll promote infiltration and slow the rates and volumes of runoff. So during construction, we have some notes on the plan specifying that the limit of work and the property line shall be staked out by a professional land surveyor before any work is done. Also prior, the erosion control barriers, a down gradient of the work will be installed. Silt sacks will be installed in the catch basins, and a stabilized construction entrance will be installed at the end of the existing driveway. With these measures, this project has been designed in accordance with the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. The calculations show that the rates and the volumes of runoff will be reduced, and the measures I mentioned before will prevent sedimentation during construction. Thank you.
Commissioners, questions here?
Is it just the one tree to be removed, Jeff?
There's a Japanese maple here that they're going to try to relocate. And then there's one 18-inch tree here. It's either an oak or an ash. And then this area here is a landscaped area that's kind of an overgrown area of burning bush and honeysuckle.
Jeff? It looks like it's a question. Is the only impervious area the driveway up in the top right corner? That's all I see, but I'm just double checking. Looks like everything else is pervious. The only impervious is the driveway?
Yeah, with the exception of the roof, yes. And the pool.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion to issue a stormwater permit?
Sure, I'll do it. I might need some guidance. I'd like to make a motion to approve the stormwater permit for 9 Linden Circle.
Did you guys want any conditions? I had a few suggested ones, but I don't know if you guys are okay without them.
No, read
Yeah.
what you read your
Okay.
suggested conditions.
All right. Just that I think this project still needs to go to large home review, and I'm sorry, Jeff, if I missed it. Do you have a date for that yet?
No, they haven't filed yet. Or they
Okay,
haven't
that's all right.
as of the day yesterday.
Okay, so I just had a condition about any site plan changes from planning board or other applicable boards or permitting authorities shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission in writing prior to implementation of the changes to determine if amended permitting is required. And then just that, since I don't think we're 100% sure on the type of pervious surface for the driveway, so I just had a note to, the long-term O&M plan shall be revised accordingly depending on the type of pervious surface selected for the proposed driveway. And that the Conservation Commission pool best management practices included with the permit shall be followed and shall be a part of the long-term O&M plan as well. And we do have a handout for that, which I'll include in the permit. Sorry, Sanjay, I don't know if you want to reread your motion, but if that sounds good to everybody, or if you guys want me to modify this, just let me know.
I have a question about the pool filtration. What type of filter are you going to use here?
I don't believe it's been determined yet. Certainly, I know you have a number of standard pool conditions that it would have to comply with,
Yeah.
but I don't think that far along in the design.
Just as long as it's not a sand, just as long as it's not a sand filter that has to be back flushed regularly.
Okay.
It's probably fine, because of course we don't allow water to the pools to be drained onto the street. And there's certainly no room on this property to drain it properly. So,
Sorry, what was the technical term for that? It's a sand filter?
yeah,
Okay. Does that sound amendable and appropriate to the applicant as well and to the commission?
I think it should be. I know we've had a couple other projects which were not sand filters, so I think it sounds like what you're asking for is standard. So, I'm not an expert in pool
I don't think there's
filter design, but it seems
more.
I think it should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would just require a lot more maintenance than more recent filtration systems, but just want to be sure here that we don't have an issue of backwashing a filter every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is. Okay, so Sanjay, back to your question.
Before I begin, and number 3 includes the stipulation on how to remove pool water and not okay.
Yeah, we have like this, I don't want to, I'll issue with the permit, but we have like a 1-page sheet on like how to, basically empty the pool and maintain it so that you're not dumping chemicals into the storm drains and stuff, so.
Great. So I'd make a motion for a stormwater permit for 9 Linden Lane with the conditions, do I have to read all the conditions in?
They've already been read.
They've already, as read already.
You just need to mention the stormwater permit number in your motion.
I'm sorry, what's the number again?
2420.
2420.
I'd like to make a motion for a stormwater permit 2420 for 9 Linden Lane with the conditions already read into the record.
Sounds good.
And sorry, Sanjay, it was 9 Linden Circle, but other than that, you're perfect.
9 Linden Circle, sorry.
Okay.
And this should be 9 Linden Circle, right? This is 9 Linden Drive. Here.
Right, I'll second that. So we're gonna vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. The public hearing for stormwater permit 2420 at 9 Linden Circle is now closed.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Welcome.
guys. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, next up, public hearing for stormwater permit 2421, 36 Orchard Drive.
Oh, and I'm sorry, there is a typo on the agenda. It's for 32 Orchard Drive. Sorry.
32 Orchard Drive.
Yep, sorry about that.
Okay, not a problem. Although when I click on my hyperlink, it's going to take me to 36.
Oh, no.
Don't worry about it. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission held a public hearing on Thursday, July 11, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for a stormwater permit 2421 at 32. Did you say?
Yep,
Orchard?
32.
Okay. Yeah. Back to Brendan.
Evening, yes. Brent Sullivan, Merrill Associates again. Charlotte, I don't know if the owner's in there.
I
Nicholas
don't see them.
Russell
So
Lombardi?
if the Lombardis are here and they want to raise their hand, I'll promote them, but I don't see them in the list.
Okay. I'll make this short and sweet because we are probably just going to continue because we do need to file a notice of intent. So the project is 32 Orchard Drive at the end of Orchard Drive, which is one of the house lots on the Toll Brothers subdivision that was built some years back off of Beechwood Street. Smaller lot, looking to put a pool and a sports court in the backyard. So we have but approximately 600 square foot pool with some hardscape. There's some 2x2 patio stones that they're putting around this side that has some grass in between. So it's not total hardscape over there. We have a subsurface infiltration system that's picking up the runoff from the patio, and we have a stone trench around the 30x40 sports court that is picking up the runoff from the sports court and going at the infiltration system as well. I'm going out there tomorrow to do a test pit in the backyard for the sports court. For the infiltration system. We were previously using the 2 test pits that we used for the original subdivision. So hopefully just going to confirm what the groundwater is out there and material, and probably get into filing for a notice of intent once we get the flags located and put together. So unless you have any questions, that's about it from this end.
It looks like you're going to do some changes to the grade.
Yes.
I'm going to zoom in on that sports court.
So we have the sports court at about elevation like 59.5. So here's currently 58, here's 59, and then it kind of grades up to the driveway. So it's a gentle slope coming off the back of the driveway to the back lawn. So we're going to tighten that up to probably about a 3-to-1 slope to be able to fit the sports court, the level area in here. Like I said, the stone trenching is on the 3 sides of the lower end of the sports court. We get a perforated pipe in there, solid pipe connect to the infiltration system.
Okay. So the fill is going to be minimal where the sports court is. It looks like most
Yeah,
of the fill then would be between the sports court and the driveway.
Right. There's actually that'll be a cut up there. There will be a slight fill on the back side of it.
All right.
And the new plan is going to have, I believe we're also getting rid of the small retaining wall too. We're just going to slope that off. And we're going to add some plantings in there as well. They have a planting plan. I'm going to add some for that as well.
Okay, and so you want this to be continued, is that right?
Yes.
Commissioners have any
Brendan,
preliminary comments before we move this along?
Yes, I have a question, please. Brendan, did you just say that you were removing the 2-foot retaining wall? Because I thought I read on the plan that you're going to build that 2-foot retaining wall.
Yes, but since this design, both the manufacturer of the pool and the owner has looked at it, and they believe that we can get away with removing the retaining wall. It'll be like a 2.5-1 to slope, which isn't all that bad on the back. So we're going from here's 57, and the pool deck is the coping's at 59.2. So we'll just be below, we'll probably be about 59, so about 2 feet in here. And we have probably about 3 or 4 feet to work with. So it'll be a steep slope off the back, but we should be fine with that. This honeycomb pattern here is 2x2 stones with 2-inch of grass in between. So it's not a full pervious patio. This brick hatching here will be a solid patio. It will be dry laid, but we're considering it impervious.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any last observations or comments before we continue this? Okay,
And Brendan, are you okay with, I think you said you still have to submit the wetlands permitting. So did you want to go back on, I think that would be August 8th if you were going to submit a wetlands permit? And you want to put them on both on the same hearing?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay.
That'll
Sorry,
work.
Tom.
no, that's good. Thanks. So the public hearing for stormwater permit 2421 at 32 Orchard Drive is now continued until August 8th.
Okay. Thanks, Brendan. We'll
Thank
look out
you.
for your second submission too.
Thanks.
Next is a resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2332, stormwater permit 2325 for 175 Lambert's Lane. This is the Cohasset Golf Club.
Commissioner, I need to recuse myself from this hearing.
Oh, well, that another one down.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, guys. And Valeria won't be joining us tonight, so I'm sorry, we will not have a quorum. But I think, Sarah, you said you guys are good with 725?
Yes, what's 2 more weeks?
Yeah, right.
It's been
Yeah.
a long time, so we'll rejoin in 2 weeks and hope that we've got a full commission for that meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the public
Thank
hearing
you.
for NOI 2332, stormwater permit 2325 for 175 Lambert's Lane is now continued until August 8th.
Oh, sorry, July 25th.
Oh, July 25th.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Did you hear from Valerio?
I did. He can't make it tonight. Yeah.
All right. Moving right along. Next is the resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2412 for Route 3A, which has been continued from May 23rd, 2024.
Just promoting Mike and I think Kylie's coming on too.
Hey, I think I can take care of it. If Kylie needs to
Oh,
jump
okay.
on, she can jump on.
Yeah, she'll stay in the audience. And then Mike, sorry, can you please just state your affiliation as well for the
Yep.
record?
Of course. This is Mike Rieger from Trans Systems, representing Mass DOT on this Route 3A improvements project. Trans Systems is out of Boston, Mass.
And Mike, you're welcome to share your screen as well if you want to pull up the plans and give us updates from the last hearing, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So, can everyone see my screen okay?
Not yet.
All right. Now?
Yep, very good.
Okay. All right, so these are, since we last spoke on, in late May, we had updated the plans based on a site visit with Mass DEP. We refreshed and reflagged wetlands, north of Route 3A, not north of Route 3A, north of Beechwood Street. Here's Beechwood Street here and Route 3A here. So we had gone in and reflagged, the A series wetlands and the intermittent stream, which is at this location, and these wetlands up here as well, wetland E's. So what ended up happening is we had updated the plans to show new numbers, new impact numbers. So then the new numbers for the Cohasset side ended up being 5,453 square feet of impacts. And then we're proposing replication at 2 locations, converting an upland area to replication, and also an area right here. So we came back and have some specs and some plans that show what type of trees and plantings are going to be in the replication areas. That's pretty much the change from last time.
Charlotte, did you say you received some letters about this?
So yes, as of today and then earlier in July, there've been a lot of you know, updates from the ENF review and 401. We did get the ENF certificate from the state. There's a lot of, you know, comments, recommendations about that, but they did get the certificate. And then 401 is still ongoing. There was a letter that we received today that had some I don't know, Mike, if you want to help with summarizing, but basically they had some, you know, differences in design, I think, with the bank portion of the relocated intermittent stream. They also had some other, you know, changes and recommendations. It kind of depends on how the commission would like to proceed tonight, but I do have, you know, a set of recommended conditions that should hopefully be able to incorporate that. And then obviously, if there's any changes to the plan, it would need to come back to us depending on those other reviews. But the ENF review is completed, 401 still pending. And then I'm not sure what other permits I think would be needed here, but Situate also closed their public hearing for the work on the Situate side.
Yes, and also we've been, Army Corps engineers completed their review. They have no further comments. We've addressed all their comments. So the lingering comments are from Mass DEP based on the water quality certificate, which is they've reviewed similar set of plans, but slightly different. They're not concerned with the riverfront area as much. But yeah, we have a meeting with Mass DEP to go over some of their comments, but I don't anticipate any changes to these plans based on their comments.
Well, it sounds like the process is incomplete.
We still need to complete the process with Mass DEP.
Yeah.
For the water quality stuff.
So it's probably premature for us to close this out. Charlotte, did you say you had some comments or conditions that you had?
Yeah, I do have, it's a long list. So if the commission would like me to, I can pull them up. And one of them will include, well, at least try to include the any, you know, potential modifications with further discussions from DEP as part of the 401 water quality certification, because obviously that permit's not our jurisdiction, but you know, any changes they make obviously relate to us, so we would just need to see those changes in writing. But if you'd like me to, I can pull up the conditions.
Well, let me ask this: can we issue this and have a condition that requires that they come back for if there are substantial changes based on DMF?
Yeah, those are some of the conditions that I drafted, and that's a part of our template as well, that obviously any site plan changes have to come back to us in writing to determine if an amended permit is needed. So that's how I've kind of worded it. And I can pull it up to kind of read it.
Concern is diadromous fish, basically herring, in Bound Brook. Is that correct?
Those were some of their concerns in their earlier letters. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So those, at least in the Bound Brook portion, those were some of DEP's concerns. And then they, you know, said to coordinate that with DMF. DMF DMF recommended some time of year restrictions for doing that in water work, just not during certain times of the year, to mitigate any impacts to diadromous fish. So I've incorporated that as a condition, and that was one of the DMF's letter was incorporated in the ENF certificate. CZM had other comments as well about, you know, obviously working out time of year restrictions and any additional turbidity, you know, curtains or measures to, you know, minimize those impacts. And they did include an updated splash pad design around the outlet to kind of help with, you know, long-term sedimentary and erosion concerns, and then just water flow in general. So that I think that is incorporated in the plans now. And then if the commission wanted to entertain the time of year restrictions, I put those as recommended conditions too.
So we can approve it, it sounds like.
If you want to, but I think it's possible, yeah, because if they, obviously any changes to the plans would have to come back to Situate and to Cohasset, for us to just make sure that we're all on the same page since we're all in each other's jurisdiction, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioners, do you have any questions about this? Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion here to issue an order of conditions?
You might want to look at the list first. Hold on. Can I pull those up?
Yeah, you better, because
Sorry, they're long.
if we're gonna move to issue an order of conditions, we need to read the conditions.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, they're not the record long ones like a few weeks ago, but they're, yeah, there's a lot of paperwork to go through, so sorry, 1 second.
Not a problem. We're running ahead of schedule, Charlotte.
We are, I know, it's throwing me off. You guys are doing great though.
Me too. I don't know what
It's
to make.
definitely throwing me off, that's for sure. Here we go. No, sorry, Mike, I will take over
Yep, no problem.
the screen. Yep. All right, so some of these may look familiar from other permits. So for these I'm going to recommend these for just, I'm sorry, not stormwater permit, since it's just an order of conditions. So this order shall be contingent upon the applicant obtaining all other required federal, state, local permits from other boards and permitting authorities. No site work, including land clearing and demo work, shall occur until all other permits have been obtained. And then all changes to the plans from other required subsequent or incomplete federal, state, local board reviews and permitting authorities shall be submitted to the commission in writing as part of an amended or I don't think you need that one. Maybe just to determine if a new, to determine if amended filing is required. And then no revised site work shall begin until the commission reviews the changes. And then this was the comment kind of related to the pending 401 water quality comments that DEP had, that the site plan shall be revised as necessary to address and incorporate the Mass DEP's comments specified in their 401 water quality certification letter dated July 11th. If any changes from the comments are not updated to the site plans, any correspondence or responses to and from DEP shall be submitted to the commission to confirm whether an amended filing is necessary. Does that condition kind of, I think, sound good? And Mike, do you like that as well?
Yeah, basically that states that we need to submit an updated plan set to you if anything changes based on the comments from DEP, right? Okay, yep.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, because I know some of their comments may or may not be fully incorporated into the plans, whereas maybe some might. So that's kind of TBD there. And if the commission likes that condition, I can keep reading, but
Yeah, keep going.
okay. And then this one's kind of long, but prior to any site work, including land clearing and demo, the following shall be completed. All changes, hold on, that was repetitive. The town Situate order of conditions, EPA general construction permit, stormwater prevention pollution plan, Army Corps authorization, 401 water quality, as well as other permits shall be submitted as part to the commission prior to site construction. That's pretty standard. We do usually ask for copies of all necessary permitting just to ensure we're all on the same page. And then the stormwater prevention pollution plan shall include equipment and offsite vehicle washing stations, stockpiling and staging. It highlighted in yellow is actually the suggested conditions from the town of Situate. And if the commission doesn't like these, I can take them out, but I figured maybe we should kind of be on the same page, even though we're in two different towns. But Situate had said no petroleum products or vehicle washing shall occur on site. They have a lot of comments, by the way, about leakage and spill contingency. So I did try to incorporate those. And then the contractor shall certify construction equipment was recently inspected, maintained for fluid leaks prior to commencement of work. And then I added this one, a spill contingency plan shall be provided to the commission prior to the start of work. The plan shall address prevention management. Potential resources of oil, hazardous materials from pre and post construction activities shall be presented to workers at site and enforced. Plan should include, but not be limited to, off-site refueling and machinery, off-site storage of fuels, and potential on-site release activity releases. Applicable temporary or permanent easements related to private property access and or alteration shall be obtained and submitted to the commission. including the temporary easement within wetland replication area in wetland E. Just that, you know, the easements I think have mostly been obtained, but we just need copies of those. And then construction schedule, estimated time frame for the specified work under this order shall be submitted in writing to the agent prior to any site work. This was a Situate condition. All erosion controls, including construction entrance, shall be inspected by the agent prior to commencement of work. That's pretty standard for us. Application contractors shall work with DMF to implement any turbidity prevention measures and appropriate containment techniques to prevent construction debris, loose sediments from moving into Bound Brook. This includes all work clearing and grubbing within the bordering vegetated wetlands adjacent to Bound Brook and the unnamed tributary to Bound Brook. This was from, I believe this was from DMF's recommendation letter, so I just put that in here. Just that if there are any additional measures other than what's on the site plan, just to coordinate that with DMF. And then all trees, vegetation proposed to remain within or just outside limit work shall be marked with necessary tree protection barriers maintained throughout construction. In regards to the wetland stuff, the contractor shall provide the name, credentials, and affiliation of the professional wetland scientist and/or wetlands restoration professional hired to oversee the wetlands replication and restoration work. The agent shall review the order in the proposed wetland resource area replication, intermittent stream location, bank restoration, riverfront area restoration with the wetland scientist or the wetlands professional to determine whether any changes or modifications to the plans are needed. Mike had previously mentioned in his submission that a wetlands scientist or a wetlands professional will be contracted to do this work. So wanted to have conditions about that in there. Distance markers, any necessary painted road markers shall be installed at the start and end of work in Cohasset to ensure proper site monitoring and compliance with the approved work. I've seen that before for other, you know, projects that happen on 3A. It's pretty standard to, you know, spray paint that stuff on the road or mark it. A lot of these in yellow are from Situate, so we can take them or leave them. Construction equipment regularly inspected and maintained to ensure fluid leaks are fixed ASAP and after detection to avoid the release of pollutants or hazardous substances to the site of the environment. Non-structural practices that may be used during construction include temporary stabilization, temporary seating, permanent seating, pavement sweeping, dust control. These practices shall be initiated as soon as possible in appropriate areas at the site. If conditions allow, temporary vegetative cover may be established on the area of exposed soils including stockpiles that remain unstable for a period of more than 60 days. I don't know if you guys agree with that. That's why I highlighted it in blue. And then as I previously mentioned, as recommended by DMF, the order shall require the following time of year restrictions for the proposed in-water project work to prevent impacts to diagenous fish species. No in-water work shall occur between February 15th and June 30th and between September 1st and November 15th of any year. So that was DMF's recommendation in their letter as well. No equipment, construction materials shall be stored within the wetland resource areas and shall be stored in upland areas. This one was actually from Situate. Sorry, no chemical, solid chemical or de-icing compounds shall be used on the site. I don't know if that's feasible, Mike, but we can maybe talk about that. I left a placeholder for tree replacement, although there is a wetland replication plan for wetland E to plant trees, native trees. So we can discuss that. All best management practices as recommended by Mass DEP in the environmental notification form pertaining to air quality and solid waste shall be followed as part of this order. They usually have pretty standard conditions that are kind of straightforward about similar stuff mentioned above. And then all best management practices required from Mass DEP in a future 401 water quality certification related to erosion and sedimentation control, dewatering, and wetlands replication and stream relocation stabilization practices shall be followed as part of this order, just in case the water quality certification has any additional erosion control or stabilization practices. You know, sometimes they put those as conditions. All wetlands, including the wetland replication area in E and relocated intermittent stream boundaries shall be marked with conservation markers using the materials as instructed by the agent and wetland scientist to ensure long-term protection of the resource areas. I don't know if that's feasible or if the commission wants that. That's why I've just highlighted it for now, and I can go back to these. I'll just finish reading all of them. Final long-term prevention pollution plan shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. That's as part of the stormwater standards. Final report from the wetland scientist evaluating the replicated wetlands area in wetland E, the relocated intermittent stream and restored bank, and the restored riverfront area shall be provided to the commission as part of the request for a COC. At minimum, the plan shall include the following. Full planting list of all native species shall be included, specifying the species, size, count, overall health status. Photos of each restored and or replication area are required. All native plants, including the seed mix substitutions made by the wetland scientist, shall be included. Post-construction hydrology assessment of wetland replication area and relocated intermittent stream shall be performed by the wetland scientist and any other appropriate professionals to ensure these areas are still hydrologically connected to wetlands A, B, E, and F in Cohasset. The exact location, size, and final elevations of the wetland replication area, restored bank, relocated intermittent stream shall be shown on the as-built plans and in the final report. And then getting to the end here, long-term maintenance and monitoring plan for the replicated wetland area in wetland E, relocated intermittent stream, restored bank, and restored riverfront shall be provided to the commission as part of a request for a COC. At minimum, the plan shall include the following. TBD, if you guys want to discuss this, 3 years is pretty standard, 3-year time frame or longer of post-construction monitoring and maintenance shall be established for those areas. Wetland replication success does not exceed at least 75% within 2 years of the initial planting completion. A revised replication plan shall be submitted to the commission for further review and approval. The 75% within 2 years is pretty standard. It's in the DEP wetland replication guidelines. Any plantings within the restored replicated areas that do not survive within the 3-year period shall be replaced. So this kind of sort of contradicts the other one. That's why I figured maybe we could discuss these. Sorry, I forgot to highlight them. Maintenance of invasive species, including methodology, shall be included. Trash debris cleanup schedule in these areas for at least the 3-year time frame shall be included. Long-term cleanup trash and debris along 3A should be included. I understand if that's not possible. And then the monitoring completion reports of the initial restoration planting event shall be received by December 15th. Subsequent monitoring year events shall occur no later than October 15th, and yearly monitoring reports shall be submitted to the agent no later than December 15th of each year. That's pretty standard for us, Mike, and we can talk about that. Completion and monitoring reports shall include at minimum size, species, location, health status of replication, restoration, plantings, replacement of any species, removal and management of invasive species, and any species substitution shall be provided to the agent prior to making those changes. And then last but not least, these are the inspections. A lot of these are pretty standard. So the following inspections are required as part of the order. Additional inspections may be required as appropriate. So we have the pre-construction visit to look at erosion control, stake limit work, tree protection barriers with the contractor and wetland scientist as needed. I'm not sure if they're needed at this part. That's why I just said as needed. Pre and post stream relocation to look at erosion controls, the intermittent stream location with the contract and the wetland scientist prior to removing the existing stream and after the stream has been relocated and stabilized. And then pre-stormwater installation inspections, just review of any stormwater management prior to backfilling with the supervising contractor and engineer. Pre and post wetland replication inspection. So I assume we're going to need more than one of those, just reviewing the, again, erosion controls, location of the replication area with the contractor and the wetland scientist prior to removing the existing, you guys get what I mean, but basically prior to and after. Sorry. And then pre and post riverfront restoration. So I'm probably going to be out here a lot, as you guys can tell, just to make sure that we're getting that oversight, and I can coordinate with Situate as well. So review erosion controls, limit of work, tree, et cetera, near Bound Brook before and after construction of outlet splash pad and restoration plantings with wetland scientist. And then just before everything's paved, just making sure that, we're clear there with the location of the road, sidewalks, bike paths with whoever the contractor is for that. And then I think I may have done this twice, sorry. And then final inspection to review the as-built conditions upon receipt of a certificate of compliance request with the contractor, engineer, and wetland scientist. And then just a comment about additional inspections may be needed. And then I'm sorry, last but not least, these are the rest of Situate's conditions. I can save this for a little bit because I just read a lot and I'm sure you guys want to process it, but the rest of these conditions were copied from Situate's order of conditions, which is in the process of being drafted. So I can come back to those later. A lot of them relate to, again, a lot of stuff about, construction activities and maintenance of vehicles and construction equipment and all that good stuff. So sorry, that was a lot, but I guess it sounded like we were okay with this one. First off, everybody, commissioners and Mike. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay. And then all of this stuff, including what was highlighted in yellow from Situate, does that sound reasonable, Mike, to work with whoever I need to work with to get all the stuff before construction? I know it's a lot, but it would definitely take care of a lot of the, pending things that we're waiting on.
Is that something you think you'd want to do, is coordinate with Situate during this, or do you want to let them do their conditions and take those out of yours, or?
It's up to, I'm good either way. It's up to the commission as well. These conditions would be definitely repetitive to what Situate says, but obviously the work in Situate is obviously not the work in Cohasset, so.
Right, yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
keep them then, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
it makes sense that we're writing a parallel set of conditions.
Yeah, and I'll share the order with Situate as well, just so that even though our conditions may not make it into theirs, they'll at least have a copy of what's going on. But yeah, I guess do all these pre-construction things make sense to you guys? Do you guys think all this is good? I think I don't know if we can require it to be an actual professional wetland scientist, so that's why I just wrote and/or wetlands restoration professional. And I think, Mike, based on your experience, does that sound appropriate?
Yeah, there's an item in the contract, Mass dot standard contract where, let me just get the terminology.
Sure.
Okay. It's referred to as a wetland specialist.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is pretty general then, because it might be a PWS, but a wetlands restoration professional or specialist. We can switch it out for specialist if everyone wants that instead.
Sure.
And I'll fix that throughout the language too, just to make it consistent. Okay. And then these are two from Situate. Are you guys good with these about, construction equipment, temporary erosion stuff? I think a lot of that's also mentioned in the site plan. Yes, okay. And then I don't know about if you guys agree with the 60-day thing. Apparently that's, they've done that for other projects.
Yeah,
Like stabilize stuff, including stockpiles if it's unstable for a period of more than 60 days.
well, it just seems arbitrary almost.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they have 60. Usually you're supposed to, cover it in anticipation for storm events if it's unused for more than, I think, 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
60 days seems like a
Yeah,
long
60
time.
seems a little, I mean, we can just take this entire sentence out. We could just say vegetative cover may be established, as needed or something, or if it remains unstable for more than a period of like 5 to 10 days.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to shorten that from 60 days. I mean,
Okay,
it really, we're seeing downpours becoming more common
yeah,
in North America.
rough.
And, if we had one of these serious downpours for 24 hours or stuff, those piles, who knows where they'd go, right? They're gonna end up in the Gulf River.
Does
Say
7
3.
sound more appropriate, or 5 to 7?
Yeah, I'd say 5.
Okay. I've seen 5, I've seen 7, I've seen 10
I
and
don't
as needed.
I don't see how temporary vegetative cover would
I don't think it would
ever
help in a
get a
rainstorm.
chance to be established enough to stabilize it. I would think that
Maybe
these
that's why they
options-
said for 60 days for temporary vegetative cover, like, because that's not going to be an emergency tactic that's used.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like these, depending on the material, but in some cases you'd want to put tarps over it.
Yeah, we could just say if conditions allow temporary vegetative cover may be established.
Yeah,
Just keep it general.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, that was the standard condition they had. And then we do like, and I think, Mike, do you have any issues with this time of year restriction, at least for the work near Bound Brook? Which
No,
shouldn't
we
be
have
that
to do
much.
that. Yeah, that's
yeah.
per DMF, so, we're gonna
Yep.
have that in our special provisions.
Okay.
So that's
Great.
consistent with that.
Okay, and then, this is pretty standard for us, no material stored in the wetland resource area, so obviously no excavators just sitting in the middle of a wetland, it's pretty common sense. And then
Okay.
this was a Situate condition, I don't know if that's feasible. I mean, 3A probably needs these things, but maybe during I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys, but that was a condition that Situate has.
Okay. Yeah, we might need to tweak that one.
Okay,
Because yeah, the road does get salt, I believe, during snowstorms.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's already getting salt. Conceivably, it's not gonna get more salt because of this.
Right.
Right?
you guys want to take it out?
Yeah,
I just don't know if that's enforceable or feasible if MassDOT, if they're putting down
I don't
stuff
think
in a
it's
snow.
enforceable with DOT.
Yeah. Okay.
you know, it's a matter of public safety, I think.
Yeah. Okay, and then, this is more of a topic for the commission. I don't know if we wanted to see, there are trees that are getting removed, not just in the wetland areas, so I don't know if we want to see any replacement or if you guys were okay with the provided wetlands replication plan in wetland E, but I know you guys did, the best you could to avoid tree removal, but there still are some trees here and there. I think a couple in buffer zones that are getting removed, so I don't know if the commission wants to see those replaced.
Yeah, anything in a buffer zone should be replaced.
Okay,
Any-
Mike,
Anything removed from the buffer zone should be replaced.
okay. Mike, do you remember off the top of your head? I know it's a huge plan set, but I definitely know a good portion of trees that are being removed, in certain areas closer to Situate. We're outside of the buffer zones, but I don't remember the details of which trees were in buffer zones or not. It may or may not be that many, but if there are any, does it sound feasible to replace them maybe somewhere in, as.
Are you talking about in the wetland buffer zones? Like near where
Yeah.
we're putting the stream in and
It's gonna be tough. I know it's gonna be really narrow, so that's why I kind of had it as a question mark. I don't know if
well,
you're
every
gonna have
time
the room.
we're impacting the wetlands, just we're replacing it with stone splash pads for the cross pipes and then just in the replication area. We could certainly look for areas to replace trees if we're clearing and grubbing areas, but most of the areas we're clearing and grubbing would be due to like the sidewalk or the road.
One of my concerns would be a loss of canopy and then colonization by Phragmites in the open areas. And so the sooner that you can reestablish canopy there, the less likely it is that we'll end up with a bigger stands of Phragmites. I think that's one of the weaknesses actually when they took out the dam at
Bound Brook.
Bound Brook, that they really didn't plant enough trees there and they aren't big enough. So it's just any time that could be taken over by Phragmites and all of that effort to keep the stream clear for fish passage would go away in 3 or 4 seasons. So.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a really good point, Tom. Does the maximum extent practical within the wetland or buffer zone areas sound appropriate? So
Yeah,
we may not be able to get all the trees back in, but we can try to see if there's anywhere where we can fit them. We might just have to go to the site and look at it and see which trees are coming out and then take a count and then figure out where we might be able to put any of them.
yeah, and certainly any of the big ones that are shading the stream or the new stream are really valuable. Again, we're fighting this losing battle with Phragmites. And every tree that we remove in one of our wetlands, of course, opens it up to Phragmites invasion.
Okay. So I'll just leave it open to wetland resource areas or buffer zones, because maybe perhaps there's a little bit more room within the riverfront, maybe closer to Bound Brook. So if we can't get the trees along the wetland areas along 3A, if it's too tight, maybe we could squeeze them in larger areas where we may or may not have a little bit more room. I don't know. Mike, does that sound appropriate?
Yeah, I think maximum extent practicable seems appropriate. We can certainly look for areas. I'm looking at the plans now.
Yeah.
I'd have to just kind of focus in on what areas actually have you know, where trees could even be placed.
Yeah, and we could also work this out with the contracted wetlands specialist. I think they, they're gonna be walking the site often enough where we might be able to find some pockets. But maximum extent practical might be a fair, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, I just said shade trees, or I can just take, do you want me to say all trees or all shade trees? Because I know we're concerned about canopy.
Well, all trees are shade trees, or all shade trees are trees.
Well, they all provide some shade, that's true. Yeah, all right.
Could you add
okay.
like a diameter to that, maybe like all trees larger than two,
Yeah.
2 feet or some significant
Yeah,
diameter?
I've seen 4, 6, usually anything under 4 or 6 inches in caliper is considered more of a sapling. It depends it depends on the caliper size for you guys of what you guys would consider to be a tree versus sapling. Do you want to do under 6?
4 inches.
Under 4?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of dead trees out there, so there's trees that are growing now are pretty valuable for all the ash trees that are dead along Route 3. So
Yeah.
Route
Okay.
3A, that is.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. And then these 2 conditions, do these sound appropriate? That, obviously if there's anything contradicting in the 401, what DEP might want to see for erosion, sedimentation control, dewatering, any stabilization practices. I mean, they may not have anything specific. They may have a general condition, but or I can just take it out if it's too complicated. I mean, we've already said changes are going to come back to us anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. And then do we want conservation markers? I just highlighted this because I wasn't sure, and I don't even know if this is feasible. We do this for private residential stuff. I just don't know if that's possible for MassDOT. But I think, Mike, you had said that you were open to marking the wetland replication areas and the
Yes.
relocated stream at the very least.
Yeah, that's what we plan on doing is,
Okay.
going out and marking out where the new replication area will be.
Okay.
And that could be part of, the pre-site visit that you do to kind of sign off
Okay.
on the area.
Okay. Commissioners, are you okay with that? That the new the wetland replication area in Wetland E and the relocated intermittent stream boundaries shall be marked with conservation markers using materials as instructed by, the agent and the wetlands specialist to ensure long-term protection of the resource areas, and it's going to be marked also for monitoring purposes.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going. And then in terms of the final report, this is pretty standard from what we'd like to see when we're dealing with restoration and replication. And then I guess I can kick it back to you, Mike. Does that sound feasible? We'd want to see the plantings, any substitutions. We want to make sure everything's hydrologically connected because that's why the wetland E was chosen as a replication area. And then putting all the, exact location, size, elevations of the replication area, relocated intermittent stream on the as-built in the final report.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the special provisions now we have for the wetland monitoring reports and the language in there, so that we were gonna submit the reports based on the commission's recommendation, like 3 to 4 reports.
Okay.
So if whatever you wanna see, we can we can give you a report whenever you want, that's fine. So.
Okay. So I guess for a final report, commissioners, you guys okay with, all the plantings, photos, native species substitutions, seed mix substitutions, post-construction hydrology assessment to make sure all the wetlands are still connected.
Yeah.
And then a size, location, final elevations, all that good stuff on the as-built in the final report.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys would like to see?
Yeah, what conceivably they're not gonna ever need a COC, right? So what other incentive could we, probably none, I guess, just to follow through on this stuff?
Well, we are going to need a COC.
Well, I guess they could just, yeah, no.
We're
No, I
issuing
see your
orders.
point. I see your point, Chris. So, I mean, we can require the final report after a, maintenance period, I guess, after the 3-year time frame, I guess. So within 3 years, the final reports due. Within 3 years of the initial planting, the final reports due.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, is that it? Oh.
But within completion of, I'm trying to word this quickly, sorry. Is that okay? By December 15th of whatever, within 3 years from the completion of all wetlands replication and resource area restoration work by December 15th. And then at minimum shall include all this. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Just it's due in 3 years from when they finish the work. Okay, and then long-term maintenance plan. We can also say within 3 years, I guess, have that with the final report. You get a maintenance plan and a final report
Yeah.
instead of a COC.
Instead
Okay.
of COC?
All right. Okay, and at minimum, the plan shall include, at least 3 years or longer, post-construction monitoring maintenance. Do we like these are a little, these two are contradictory. So it's up to you guys. I mean, this is the standard for BVW replication for DEP. And then it's up to you guys if, I don't know if we can get 100%, but if the commission wants to see, any or majority of plantings replaced, I mean, it's up to you guys. Whatever you guys want. I don't know if we can get 100%, but maybe higher than 75, or if you want, I don't know.
How are they different? Hang on.
So 75% success means 75% of all plantings survive within 2 years. Whereas any plantings restored in the areas that do not survive 3 years shall be replaced. So we've had these conditions for various projects. So I put them both in, and I don't know if you guys want to just decide. The 75% in 2 years is standard for BVW replication, that is.
But we're requiring 3 years of monitoring.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I think in order to determine if a wetlands replication area is successful, you're going to find out within the first 2 years. That's why I think they have that.
And then it gives you a year to fix it.
Yeah, so I mean, the 3rd year would really just be for the monitoring and the maintenance, but you would know within 2 years if the replication area is successful.
Well, if we've had this structure before, let's stay with it.
Okay. We can say, maybe for this one, shall be replaced. I mean, I said replaced as needed. So, I mean, or we can say it shall be replaced to the greatest extent practicable, I guess.
Yeah, that's our workhorse term, isn't it?
Yep. It's also a word that's used a lot in regulatory world. Greatest extent practicable. And then, just cleaning up the area, monitoring reports. We want monitoring reports no later than December 15th. Subsequent monitoring reports no later than October 15th of each year. Yearly reports shall be submitted no later than. Well, actually, if you guys want to make it simple, we could just say every report has to be due annually by December 15th. You guys are okay with that?
Yeah.
Oh, they want the events to occur no later than October and the report to be due no later than December. Yeah, that makes sense. We've done that before for other stuff. But this might, I don't know. I mean, maybe they won't be able to get out October 15th. So we can take out the yearly monitoring events and just say the monitoring report shall be submitted no later and just let them do their report, their monitoring when they want to. You guys okay with that, or do you want to keep this?
Well, it seems like they could monitor 9 months before that and a lot could happen over that.
That's true. Yeah, and obviously past like maybe October, November, things are starting to go dormant, so it's a little bit harder to
Yeah.
sometimes evaluate that. That's why I think they want, this is pretty standard to get, monitoring reports in the spring or the fall, I'm sorry, the summer or the fall before everything starts to go dormant.
Yeah, let's leave that.
Okay. And then this is I actually copied this exactly from our Beechwood enforcement order. So you guys are good with that, we'll keep it. And
Yeah.
then no one wanted any other site inspections, right? Because I've already definitely put a lot in for the stream, for stormwater, for wetlands replication, for riverfront paving, and then final. That's pretty good, right? All right. And then last but not least, do we want all of these Situate conditions in here? Or do we want to just,
No, I think it doesn't make sense to have a one plan for one town and another one next door.
yeah, I mean, for 22, similar to the, road salts and stuff, I just don't know, because MassDOT has different permissions to use herbicides and stuff, for invasive removal. So I don't know if we can enforce this if MassDOT's doing their thing for like shoulder maintenance, for example. I don't know if we can stop them here. At least, Mike, I don't know if you've seen conditions like this or if they're not feasible, but I don't know what MassDOT's going to do to maintain the, new sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in my experience with any extra conditions on what MassDOT would do for the treatment of the roads.
This would probably be more for like the grassy areas and the shoulders around the sidewalks that will be created. So, Situate was probably thinking of that in mind, using them really close to wetland resource areas. You don't want those getting in the water, obviously.
Mhm.
Let's leave them in there.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
Okay, so you guys okay with the rest of these? I haven't fully read them yet, but I think you guys at this point can read them. This one wanted the agent to be contacted on dewatering. That's fine with me if it's fine with you guys. And then like I said, they had a lot of conditions about checking equipment, making sure it works, no spills, having a spill containment kit. It is a little bit redundant to what I've already drafted, but if we want to just keep it in here for the sake of, just being consistent, that's fine with me.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right, sorry, that's it. I don't want to make a motion now that I've read them.
Yes. I move that we issue a order of conditions with the conditions as read into the record.
Second.
Hang on a second, I was thinking for a second. I want to move to issue an order of conditions for NOI 2412 Route 3A with the conditions that have been read into the record. I'll take your second again.
Second.
Okay. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Oh, Sanjay, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. And motion passes 4-0-0. Now we need a variance for work.
It's exempt per our local bylaws.
Oh,
So
okay.
yep.
Right. We don't want to waste our time on that then.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
So the public
you.
hearing for NOI 2412 at Route 3A is now closed.
We'll
All
take a
right.
quick
Thank
break.
you.
Sorry, that was long.
Yeah, I second that.
I just need 5,
We're not going to
Okay.
vote on it though.
Do you guys want 5 minutes?
please.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll come back at 8:42.
Okay, sounds good.
How you guys doing? Sorry, that was exhausting.
I missed my nap today, so I'm not completely coherent.
Sanji, you all set? Chris, you guys all set? Just give him a minute. Yeah, sorry, that the last one took a lot out of me.
That was long.
That was a lot of documents to read, sorry.
That's okay.
It's only
Thank
a
you.
project that altered every resource area possible except for a vernal pool. It's fine.
Mm.
All right, Chris, you all set?
Not back yet.
Nope, okay. Chris, can you hear us? Here we go. All right, Tom, you ready to start?
I am.
Okay.
Okay, next is a resumption of the public hearing for NOI 24-4, stormwater permit 24-7, 98, 100, 102, 104 Howard Gleason Road. It's been continued from June 6th, 2024.
Okay. Hi, Wayne. Hi, Julie.
Wait a minute.
Hmm?
Wait a minute.
You skipped one.
I skipped one, that's right. Let me back up. Jumped right past that one.
Oh, sorry, did you read the wrong one?
I did. Oh, what have I done here?
So it's NOI 2334 for Turkey Hill Road.
Yeah, I know.
No worries.
There we go. Next is,
Okay.
next is a resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2324 at Turkey Hill Road. It's continued from June 6th, 2024.
Okay. Julie and Wayne, would you guys, I can maybe pull up the management plan, and did you guys want to walk us through it?
Sure. Julie, did you want to take the lead on that or?
Sure, happy to do that. So thank you all for sticking in for late meeting. I know they're not easy to be dealing with this stuff so late. So the main thing that we did to update the management plan is to add two alternatives. We actually have three alternatives. One alternative is the do nothing alternative. But then there are two alternatives. Charlotte, if you want to go to that table, I think that's easiest to show the differences between the two alternatives. They kind of span two.
Sure.
But we're looking at the invasive control and mowing frequency within the isolated vegetated wetland and within the isolated vegetation 20-foot buffer, 25-foot buffer. So in alternative one, we talk about doing invasive control both within the IVW and the buffer using mechanical methods as well as wetland approved herbicides, and then have a biannual mowing frequency within both of those resource areas And there are some, we talk about it further, best management practices, avoiding really wet times, looking for those dry times, not mowing within grassland breed burning season. And then alternative 2 is looking at within the IVW, we would still do the invasive control using mechanical and wetland approved herbicides, but would not do any mowing. But we would do mowing within the buffer zone. Again, on a biannual basis, making sure that we're not mowing during really wet times because we do not want to be causing any rutting and using appropriate equipment. In the field outside of all the resource areas, we would be doing mechanical and herbicide control of invasive species and annual mowing as we're doing now. So those are the 2 alternatives that we've added in. Again, looking at maintaining contiguous open grassland and wet meadow habitat by doing invasive control and mowing in alternative 1, not mowing in alternative 2. We do have best management practices, as I was mentioning, that we've added in. I think if you can go down to that, page 4, I believe, where we talk about what herbicides we would be using, how we would be using those herbicides. Again, wetland approved herbicides, wetland approved surfactants as needed. Really focusing on how to prevent erosion, how to prevent rutting. And then a lot of invasive control, you have to really time it to the most optimal time for individual species. Not all species can be treated at the same time, depending on when they're flowering, when they're going to be translocating chemicals into the root systems. So that has to be really specific to individual species. And, you know, the overall intent with this project is to localize removal with mowing and mechanical and chemical treatments to protect the native flora and fauna within the wetland and the buffer zone, without preventing damage to native flora and fauna to the extent practical. So
Sorry, I
that's
was jumping around, Julie, but I can go to the mowing BMPs too if the commission wants to look at those. And thank you. Sorry.
Wayne, did I miss anything? That's kind of a really short synopsis of how we had changed the NOI from how it was previously submitted.
I think the only thing to add is just around those best management practices for mowing. We did additionally want to say we aren't planning on mowing the whole area. We were going to just do a selective mowing pattern where the operator would only mow areas that had invasive species, had woody species in it, and then we would leave everything else unmowed. So I think that's an important distinction from our first plan, which was just mowing the entire area.
So, Wayne, it's been a while since I've been out there, but the plan for the potential just to mow areas that have woody species, how much of that IVW and its buffer would that be?
I mean, for just the woody species is probably, I don't know, 20 or 30%. What would you say, Julie?
Yeah, I'd say it's really low right now. And if we can continue with maintenance, it's going to stay really low. If we wait a long period of time, that percent of woody species is going to increase. So that's why we have this biannual mowing as opposed to waiting, for 5 years of mowing every 5 years, because it's just gonna be a larger part of the area that would have to get mowed. Because more and more woody species would come in over time.
So wouldn't some of those woody species be native plants?
Yes, they could potentially be native plants.
Yeah, that's the sticking point. I mean, you guys really want to have an open meadow there. I understand that. But you're engineering something here, so that puts you in a sort of a different bucket than somebody that's just trying to restore whatever nature wants to grow there, other than the invasive species. So that's what concerns me here.
Yeah, I mean, they're very well likely that red maple could get established. Ash trees could try to get established, even though all the ashes are dying. They're still gonna get ash seeds, and ash trees getting established there. So there are native woody species that will try to grow in any open area, in Massachusetts, in New England for that matter. And it's really the habitat that we're maintaining there is a grassland habitat and wet meadow habitat.
Well, I would use a different word. You're not maintaining it, you're engineering it. You have a preference for what natives grow there, and you're exercising that preference.
I guess it's how you want to describe it. I mean, I would describe it as maintaining. I think as engineering would be, in my mind, engineering is more bringing species in and planting and really pushing the composition in a very hands-on way. Whereas
let me rephrase that then. You're deliberately allowing one environment to develop there and preventing a natural succession that would take place otherwise.
That's true.
I was just trying to follow along, but it still will be a wetland, right? Like
it would still be a wetland habitat. Yep. We're not changing that. We're not draining. We're not dredging. If it actually grew up into more trees, that could actually dry it up more because the trees would evapotranspirate potentially more. Yeah, our intent is to keep it as a wetland habitat and one that's not that common around.
I think that
speaking of that, could you pull up the wetland delineation, Charlotte? Please. I was curious, since we are bordering Hingham, if they've established how well they established that this is an isolated wetland that doesn't extend. I know that slope kind of there's wetlands along that kind of contour.
Oh, sorry, Chris, do you want the map first or do you want the memo from ECR?
Whatever you think makes the most sense based on.
Probably have to pull up both, just one so you guys can visually see it again, and then just a quick refresher. This there's two, so the Hingham line is obviously to the north. Another wetlands party had evaluated this area beforehand and flagged both of these wetland areas. This person had differences in opinion with ECR as to whether or not these were wetlands. So I think the first report was maybe they weren't, but then we had a second opinion. We had ECR, Brad Holmes, go out, and Brad only walked this larger one. And most, because obviously we're dealing with the Cohasset side here. So he walked this one and re-investigated it and determined it to be an isolated vegetated wetland. And I can pull up his memo as well. So Wayne and Julie, unless you remember differently, I don't think we specifically walked this one for Hingham. We did walk around the majority of this whole thing, and Brad did reevaluate this and come up with this new IVW delineation plan as of November 23. And I can pull up the memo too, that correlates with that.
And that's following the Cohasset bylaws.
Correct, yes. So his determination was that it met the definition of an IVW in accordance with our bylaws. And that he also determined under the Wetlands Protection Act that it was not an isolated land subject to flooding. Basically doesn't hold enough water and it's a little too small.
Well, it's also on a slope.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
That's
So
probably
yeah,
the biggest reason it's not
we
subject.
did find hydric soils. We did see the majority of, wetland vegetation, and obviously, so he at the end said it's does not contain any vernal pools, not in an area of environmental concern, not near a USGS map stream, does not contain land subject to flooding. So he said per the commission's jurisdiction, it's an isolated wetland with a 25-foot buffer.
Yeah, so there is no connection to, there's a BVW down the hill quite a ways.
Yeah, and I did get some
no connection, right?
additional clarification from Brad. He said, as I asked him today, sorry, I'm just getting to his email. He said, yes, the IVW is separated from the BVW. He would have to dig a little bit more to review, but he remembers the area was a slight pocket of wetland species with soils and some groundwater near the surface to make it an IVW within the field area.
Yeah. And that's consistent with what Steve Ivas and I saw when we were out there the first time.
Okay.
So back to the issue of how intrusive the treatment is going to be. And we talked a little bit about mowing. Tell us a little bit more about the herbicide program that you're going to use. What herbicides and how are you going to do this?
Wayne, do you
So-
want to describe that?
Sure. For the woody species, it would probably be a foliar application applied with best management practices. We would probably use Garlon 3A, which is a triclopyr product and a non-ionic surfactant, which both of those are approved for use in wetlands. For the Phragmites, we would most likely do a cut and drip for that, where we would come in and then drip the herbicide right into the stem of the Phragmites. And Julie, would that be glyphosate as well? Is that or not as well, but would we be using glyphosate for that? Is that the recommended one?
I believe that's recommended for Phragmites.
And I think you also have it here for Japanese knotweed, but then it does look like you've selected foliar application in certain ways for Phragmites and for knotweed.
Yeah, it could be a follow-up treatment for the Phragmites when for regrowth in small amounts.
Yeah, basically if the stems are not large enough that we can actually drip into them, that's when we would do more of a foliar application.
So if you could give us a little more detail about your foliar application.
So that would be with either a backpack sprayer, or we've got an RTV, a small, utility vehicle where we would put a spray tank in it, and that is then pressurized with an electric pump. Both are very similar in that you're basically getting right up next to the target, and you're spraying it, from within about a foot or so. So it's highly localized and you're not really getting much drift.
Have you considered doing something like isolating each of these, say, putting a piece of PVC pipe over it and spraying directly into the pipe so that you're
I mean,
eliminating your overspray?
With the size of the plants that we would be dealing with, I don't believe that that's practical. If
How
you've
big
got
are
a multiflora rose plant that's 4 feet wide, I
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
you can really do that.
Yeah, well, wouldn't you, so if you've got a multiflora rose plant that's 4 feet wide, aren't you gonna cut that out? Take that out with your mowing?
I mean, yes, but you
And-
could
and
have
then-
it grow
and
3 or
then
4 feet
isn't-
in one season,
Yeah, but
But
after you've cut it, then you do have access to, pretty easy access, I would think, to its main stem.
And I think some of that, Tom, it really depends on which species and
Yeah,
how large they've grown, right? You're certainly not going to cram a big leaved Japanese knotweed into a small PVC pipe. And so we have experience really trying to have minimal impacts to non-target species. And we can actually do that with nozzle size, nozzle droplets, and how we're spraying, so that we're not having, a lot of non-target impacts. If we had something like I've seen that kind of, not a PVC pipe, but a similar situation used around highly sensitive endangered species, where people are trying to use herbicide to control invasives, and they'll actually put like a can over the endangered species and then spray around it to ensure that it's not impacted. But in this, I really anticipate that over time, the species, if we can keep on top of the control, are going to be small. We're going to be doing kind of minimal impacts to non-target species.
Of these options, what are you guys in favor of, or what are you advocating for?
I would advocate for alternative 1. That would be kind of our preferred alternative, but we can work with alternative 2 as well. I would not advocate for alternative 3, the do nothing approach, because then you're really going to be sacrificing this area. It's just going to become overgrown with invasive species, which are then going to be, again, throwing seeds into neighboring areas as well.
Mr. Chair, I've been really bad with time tonight, but just wanted to note that we've had about like 20 minutes. So I don't know if we want to maybe choose an alternative that our commission overall is most interested in, because I think that would be really good guidance for the trustees.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards alternative 2 actually, but I guess the foliar spray is worrisome. I mean, I use these chemicals myself in my own yard, I don't spray without having some sort of container. Now, I don't have 4-foot multiflora rows, but I certainly wouldn't try, even if I did, I wouldn't try to do it by spraying. I'd cut it out and then deal with the shoots as they came up the same way, putting a piece of pipe. And and the spray really necessarily in that pipe so that the surrounding vegetation is not exposed at all. Keeps the amount of glyphosate hitting the soil to a minimum. It's controlled. It's not floating away in the air.
Sorry, Tom, your volume was just a little wonky. I don't know if it's better. Yep, there you go. I don't know if moving closer is better.
Yeah, closer is better. So anyway, I'm troubled by the aerosol aspect here.
So Tom,
Is
I
mo-
can speak to that a little bit. When a homeowner is dealing with a small amount of property, that may be practical, but when you're talking about treating acres, there's just not enough time or resources to do that. And if we are limited in this way, the work just won't get done. And that's just being honest about it.
And mowing without
many
herbicide
acres?
is not an option.
I mean, yeah, that could be an option. We would prefer both. You're not going to get rid of invasive species, you will just slow their spread through mowing.
Acres, is this IBW plus the 25-foot buffer? 1 or 1.5?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So it's about 3 times bigger than what I'm working with. It's only one of me.
I'm just wondering, like, if we could get to like what we could decide on. Like, are we talking about alternative one is mowing with herbicide, just the IVW. Alternative 2 is mowing herbicide for the IVW and the 25-foot butter. Is that how, like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around what we're going to decide on.
Sorry, Sanjay. Yes, I pulled it back up. So alternative 1 would be mechanical and approved herbicides in the IVW and the buffer, and then biannual mowing with those best management practices. And then alternative 2 would be the, herbicide use, the same herbicide use within the IVW and the buffer, but then there would be no mowing in the IVW, and then there would be more controlled mowing in the 25-foot buffer. Or targeted mowing.
And
for
the targeted
invasives.
mowing would be under both alternatives. It's just in, there'd be no mowing in alternative 2 within the IVW itself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julie. Thank you for clarifying. So I'm sorry. So all of the mowing
Right.
that's marked as biannual here would be targeted. So you wouldn't be doing the whole thing. It would just be where there's invasive species. Correct. Okay.
Okay, if I say it back, so there's mowing and herbicide in all options. It's just a question of mowing frequency and the area in which mowing frequency is happening, but all options are targeted mowing.
Correct.
So when you say biannual, what months would you mow?
Normally in the fall, October, November, something like that. It could even be December, if the conditions are right, mowing when it's frozen is actually way lighter on the land.
So
And
biannual means twice a year, doesn't it?
Every other year is
Oh.
what we're,
Oh, yeah.
the 25-foot buffer thing, like, if you don't mow there, it just naturally grows, or what happens in that scenario? I'm just trying to understand the difference between those two.
So the difference of not mowing within the IBW itself is,
Or I'm just trying to understand this table, like, do I think of IVW row and IVW 25? That's all one lumped in alternative.
oh, the table spans 2 pages. Sorry, there's IBW buffer in this alternative too as well.
I don't know if you guys can read that, but is that better? So in the IVW and the buffer for alternative 2. So there's the, yeah.
Oh, so in alternative 2, there's no mowing in the IVW.
Correct.
And you guys are advocating for alternative 2?
Alternative 1, where
Alternative
we
1.
would be able to mow within the IBW.
All right, I'd like to make a motion. I don't know what, what is
Before we
it, NOI?
do, Chris, do you have anything that you've been remarkably silent about this? I know this is something
Yeah.
that's super hard.
I'm kind of just listening, just regarding the herbicides. It's been something that we've seen come up, and this is, I'm just trying to think of whether how we could assess the, you know, the effectiveness and the potential, you know, negative impacts of this as a kind of a trial, I guess. But at the same time, it's when we first reviewed this, I was curious why they didn't try to expand the meadow to the south. I guess it's been there. It's pretty rocky. Where they're, you know, I see the value in the meadow. Just, is there a reason why that's not been, has that been considered as an alternative? And if so, why is it not a feasible option? I guess it would be probably tree removal, but they've already, that's pretty much how they created this swath of land, as we saw from aerial imagery.
So you're looking at the south side?
The
of
south,
meadow?
yeah, the opposite side of the meadow, basically,
Mhm.
where there's, I think there's trails and stuff, but
One of the things that's different about some of the other proposals that we've seen for applying herbicides have not included foliar spraying.
correct.
They've all been wipe and stem injection, etc.
True, yeah, and smaller residential kind of applications as well, but
One of them is that it's not, it's just short of an acre, I'd say. So it's, the scale is not, it's smaller, but it's not a lot smaller.
The herbicide, regardless of application, will it negatively impact? Because if I recall, this was to enable a bird habitat, right? Like,
Correct.
and so will there be a negative impact to the fauna there?
It will not, you know, when we're doing work within the field, it's not going to be during grassland nesting bird season. It's going to be really targeted. We're going to be trying to avoid, you know, when we don't want these plants to be in flower, so we're not going to be spraying pollinators. And in these targeted applications, even foliar applications, I think we tend to think about large scale agricultural spraying in our minds when we hear about this. And it's really something very different. And the amount of chemicals that are used are very different. So we're walking up to individual plants and with a spray nozzle, you know, a nozzle that's smaller, much smaller generally than your hose nozzle where you'd be watering your yard, right? It's a much smaller nozzle that we use to apply the herbicide directly to the foliage of the target species. We're not trying to get spray that's gonna go off target, not be on the foliage, and we can also adjust the droplet size so that, you know, it's not a fine mist that's gonna blow. We can use larger droplets that are gonna adhere better. So we can really tweak the application method to have, you know, minimal off-target impacts, really focusing on controlling what we need to control. And if we can get out there in an annual basis, then we're not getting big infestations, right? Right now we have quite a bit of Phragmites we're going to have to control, but our overall goal is keeping things in invasives in a maintenance phase where we might be able to go out and just trim it. That might work. It'll be small. We might be able to go out and hand pull eventually as we see, you know, one Phragmites show up. But we're not there yet, right? We have to kind of use some of these methods to reclaim the area and make sure that we don't have big infestations showing up. And we can be pretty targeted.
Would, if you were to only do foliar application as needed for the specific species that we listed in our plan, if you did that for the first year, would there be a need to do it the next year, or could you resort to other even more targeted methods? Like, do you think foliar is something you're going to need within, you know, subsequent years?
Yeah, I'd say because it's been a couple years since we've done anything in there. It's not going to be a one and done situation. Anybody who's tried to control invasives in their yard knows that it's never a one and done. But I can see, you know, after the first year, we're going to do less, right? There's going to be less to spray. After the second year, there's going to be even more less. And then, you know, after the third year, it could be almost reduced to nothing. I don't know, right? Because it's going to depend how big are those, how well established are those root systems and how successful is the application. And some of that variability gets into weather conditions and making sure that we can get it at the right time of year, which is always, you know, targeting and making sure that we're following the label for herbicides, making sure that we're using best practices.
Could we add a condition where the conservation agent can review the plan annually? And it only would have to come back to us if it has to exceed by 25% from the previous year?
We'd be willing to.
Because then I think because then we'll have some oversight if we think this is getting to be a bigger spraying plan over year.
Oh, so you're saying that you would only need to review if the amount of product used was increasing?
Yes, but also you should, is it possible to report to the conservation agent how much product is actually being used on an annual basis?
Yeah, that's very easy to do.
And we could also provide before and after photos too of pre-treatment and then post-treatment.
The overall use of herbicides be reduced if in year one you mowed the whole thing, IBW and the buffer zone, and you only got one mow that first year to really take out anything that is large. And would that make it easier to control and in the long run reduce the amount of product you use?
Again, it's going to depend. Sorry, Wayne.
Go ahead.
It's going to depend somewhat on the species, right? So if we mow all the Phragmites in the first year, the stems that are going to be growing could potentially be smaller, and then we might not be able to do the cut and drip. We might have to do a foliar application to the smaller Phragmites as they're growing back. So this is some of the nuance of looking at, you know, which species and what's the best way, most targeted way. If it was something like a multiflora rose, which I don't know if there's giant multiflora rose out there right now. I haven't been there this year, but if you have a really large multiflora rose, it can actually be counterintuitive if you mow it down and the doesn't have enough leaf area to absorb the herbicide to kill the roots, right? So then you're going to have to be repeating versus spraying a larger multiflora rose where it's actually able to translocate more herbicide into the roots and kill the root system, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do, is kill the root systems of perennial plants. And so it's figuring out between mowing and spraying what's the best timing. You know, like you're saying, for some species it might make more sense. You know, if we had a knotweed that was growing over our head, you don't want to be kind of doing that kind of an application. You'd mow it early, let it regrow maybe, you know, 2 months over the summer. So then you're spraying something that you can spray down upon, as opposed to trying to spray up and over and get all of it. So it's really, you know, an art and a science to do this well and successfully. And Wayne is one of the best applicators I think that we have within the organization, who has been working with these different systems and species for quite a few years.
Could we add a condition like in 5 years, like give you the ability to mow for the next 5 years, but then revisit the question of mowing after 5 years?
I think that's reasonable, for sure.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Chair, can I make a suggestion, since I don't know if we're all on board with what we want. I think what I'm going to recommend is, based off of the commission's thoughts, I think we've had a lot of really good potential conditions, mitigations, and this seems to be something that maybe our commission would want to look at dynamically, maybe from year to year, and then you tailor and modify the activities done in the IVW and the buffer every year. If that's something that you guys I think could satisfy all parties, and if Wayne and Julie are open to that, to maybe have the commission, like, let's say, come to the site every year before you do the mowing or the herbicides. We look at it, we talk about it in a meeting as a group, we figure out the plan for at least for the first couple years until that work can be mitigated and spread out more. And as Sanji suggested, maybe evaluate mowing at all after a certain period of time. This might be something that maybe we have to just look at on a frequent basis and then tailor, you know, our best management practices for herbicide use and mowing based off of site assessments and how the previous year did with whatever we looked at last time. So in order to do that, I'm going to need some time to maybe think and draft some conditions, and we can come back and talk about it if the commission is open to that, and if you feel that you can permit this project.
Okay,
And I know with
clarification, like if you're going to do that, like maybe think about like what needs to actually come back to the commission annually versus something the conservation agent can assess.
Right.
Like if it's not, like I said, like, well, like I proposed earlier, like if you're not exceeding what we're going to plan the first year, if it's, you know, less mowing, less herbicide, I don't know. I can only speak for himself. I think we should leave that to the discretion of the conservation agent, versus having to ask the trustees to come back every year and present.
Okay, well, yeah, that was a suggestion, but it really depends on what the commission feels. If you want me to definitely look at it every year and have them just submit reports of what they're doing, and I can make that decision. If, you know, for example, obviously if they're increasing herbicide use for whatever reason, like we can come back and look at it, but it's up to you guys. I mean, I just wanted to kind of note the time, and if you guys are open to it.
I think that's a good idea, and just given the nature of this particular situation, as we wade into the use of herbicides and wetlands. I think at least touching base on the first year and taking it from there would make sense, getting kind of a progress report and maybe updating the plan as needed, at least in the first year, and seeing what the trajectory is, how successful it's been, or where we're
Yeah, I
headed.
think I think if you guys are open to that, I can definitely come up with some conditions to, do a trial run in the first year. We get a report from Julie and Wayne, they come back, we talk about it, we tweak the plan, and then, have them do the rest of it with, the activities that they have laid out. But yeah, if I were to do that, I didn't I would just need a week to draft the conditions, and they can come back on the 25th and we can talk about it if commissioners are kind of agreeable to that.
I would be agreeable to that.
What do you think about, addressing you, Wayne and Julie, what do you think about dividing this into two? And use your preferred option on half of it and the alternative on the other half. Give it a couple of years and see what kind of a difference that might make. Are we being too strict by saying no mow in the IBW, or is it warranted? We're really struggling with this. I mean, we're seeing more and more people come to us that want to do restoration. And I think we're not entirely opposed to it. Our bylaws are fairly clear that we don't allow these herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers in these buffer zones, but we're starting to consider the impact of invasive species, and it's just getting worse. So this might serve as a, let's say, a test of these two alternatives anyway, and give us some confidence that one or the other is superior. So basically, have a test plot, maybe even have a control somewhere.
That might be possible. I think we could, what we might run into is having, some invasive species on one side versus the other side. And so we might not get an overall clear picture because it may be very species dependent. But I think that's something that we could consider, and I think Wayne and I would have to get out on site and think through that. Maybe you could propose that, but not mandate it, and we can try to work through that experimentation, right, to help you as a commission be able to get a better feeling for these different methods, is what I'm hearing from you, Tom.
The issues we're facing is setting a precedent. And Cohasset has been pretty strict about this for a long time, and this would be a pretty significant, not just this case, but several others that we've seen. And it would be a significant departure from certainly the intent and the explicit bylaw we have. So I don't want to see us suddenly just overturn all of that precedent that we've already set. That we're not feeling some sense that the overall effect is beneficial. Are we really able to keep invasives at bay, or are we wasting our time? And in the meantime, using pesticides or herbicides. The mowing is less of an issue for me, really. But I know I'm not the only one here that's concerned about herbicides and wide use. The advantage here is you guys are professionals. You have the scientific basis to do what you're doing. Homeowners, it'll be
a long time before I think we would ever come to the point where we're just going to approve homeowners to do it themselves. But, you know, I see this maybe as an opportunity to educate us.
Yeah, I think it's a great, suggestion to be able to have the commission see this work in action and get a better feel for the success and what it takes, and understand, what goes into making those decisions that we do to control invasive species. So we can provide you with a lot of details on, what we're treating and where we're treating and the decision making. We can write an annual report that details all that. And like Charlotte was mentioning earlier, having that kind of be a phased approach, right, over the next 3 years of, the commission or the agent really participating in that as we're outlining our decisions and seeing what the plan is, what we actually did, and the success of it. I think that makes a lot of sense for us to document that and say, we were successful this year. We weren't able to spray this year because it did nothing but rain, right? So we can't apply if there's, rain. So there's those decisions that come year over year. And I'd love to have the commission learn more about our approach to how we handle this.
So the metrics are pretty important. Certainly it's pretty simple to quantify the amount of product you use. It's a little bit more complicated if you do a census of the density of the individual invasive species. And that would be really the only way we would ever know how effective it was actually, is to see a reduction in density or even better yet, elimination. So I don't know, maybe that's asking, we've already mentioned how much effort it would take to do certain activities. And so certainly taking a census of what's out there might be asking too much, but it also seems to me that if you don't have some sort of measure of the efficacy of your program, we might run an experiment, and at the end of the day, we don't really know whether it worked or not.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with doing, a monitoring. It may not be a complete census, but we could run some transects or put out some meter square plots through the area and, randomize them however it works for, a period of 3 years. I wouldn't say that we could do that indefinitely over time, but, there are projects where we're working on controlling invasives or restoring habitats where we do that type of monitoring over a 3-year period to kind of prove what we are we succeeding or are we not succeeding, and having not just, having a list of what species are there, as well as their some measure of abundance.
So Charlotte, you've heard all of this. This should appeal to you as a scientist.
So I think, based on the commission's thoughts, I think I can come up with a draft plan where I can try to incorporate everyone's thoughts, concerns of how we want to set this up, and then we can bring it back to the next meeting and kind of discuss. And it sounds like we do want to evaluate to see which of the alternatives are better for the long run. And like I said, I think for this, property in particular, which is a conservation oriented management type of property, it does, set the standard pretty high, and just because we approve something, for this property doesn't mean we're going to approve it for a private residential property. So this is definitely a different parcel to begin with. So I think I can come up with some conditions to maybe evaluate this in more detail, bring it back to the commission, and then see if you guys are all set with those parameters. And then, you know, I'll definitely try to tailor it in a way where I think it can be, you know, dynamically changing based off of how successful each year is and how much you're using or not using. So if everyone's okay with that, I can, you know, put it on for July 25th, and I'll have something for you guys. And then Julie and Wayne, I'll just, you know, run through it obviously with you guys to make sure that you're feasible with those conditions, and then we can discuss with the commission. And then in the meantime, if commissioners have any suggested thoughts or comments or additional conditions that we didn't talk about tonight, if you want to send those to me, I can definitely incorporate them. Just so that we're not, you know, delaying the discussion, you know. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds good to me. Commissioners, what do you think?
Sorry?
It's looking like a good way to move forward.
Yeah, just to be a bit specific, like it'd be great if we have a single recommendation, so we don't have to sort of piece through alternatives. I'd also like to see, I like really Tom's idea. So if you could incorporate that randomized sample and assessment into any plan, and then think about like what needs to be approved by the commission annually, and what, you know, if something's trending in the right way, we might be okay with just, I would be okay with just a report out and findings. And the reporting probably will be most important. So we think about what we could learn about the use of these herbicides in future decisions as well, potentially.
Talks about what should go into the, to Charlotte's recipe. Not specific, I mean, just the notion of moving ahead by creating conditions that allow for this experiment.
Okay. And you guys are all set with continuing to July 25th? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Thank you.
July 23-24 at Turkey Hill Road is now continued to July 25th.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Next, we're going to resume the public hearing for NOI 2404, stormwater permit 2407, 98, 100, 102, 104 Howard Gleason Road. It's been continued from June 6th, 2024.
Hey, Brendan, still awake?
Yeah, I'm back. So let me pull up the plan here for Howard Gleason. So I know it's been a little bit since we had our site walk out there. But I've, so when we went out there, we had the driveway staked out, and we needed to locate this stone wall that was constructed, on the left side of the roadway as you come in. So that's been added. I moved the bottom of the driveway closest to the street, about 3.5 feet to the east. Due north is to the left of the page. So I moved it about 3.5 feet closer to the BVW over here. And I can even that a little more as well. But I've also added 12 trees. Some on this side and 4 on the left side as they come up, and try to get them in a higher area, so get them out of the, you know, the overflow that we get from the high tides in this low area, like below 7. So we get 12 trees proposed. From the 12 trees that we're losing in the 50 to 100, there's no trees we're cutting down in the 0 to 50. And I mean, I can show that on the tree plan. I've added tree details to the tree plan, which is this one here. And I was able to, I know, Tom, you mentioned about trying to save, there was one larger tree, I forget the species of it, at the end of the stone wall. It looks like we'll be able to maintain that tree and try and save it. We pulled the grading over a little bit. We got some other trees planted around it, but it looks like we can save that tree at the end of the stone wall. So like I said, I got, you know, there's no trees we're taking out on the 50. We got 12 trees were taken down for the infiltration system in the roadway, with between the 50 and the 100. So those are the 12 we're replacing. And so on the detail sheet, and then we talked about the drainage coming back out to Howard Gleason Road, and we talked about maybe getting rid of the berm on there. So from the last catch basin, so the runoff coming down the road will be captured by the catch basin, that last catch basin at about Station 2, about 200 feet from Howard Gleason Road. But after that, I'm proposing to eliminate the berm. So the pavement will just come over to the 1.5 foot wide gravel shoulder, and then go into a 1x1 gravel trench, stone trench. And then beyond that, I got about 1.5 foot wide wet swale with some salt tolerant species in there, because it will be fairly close to the, if not in the groundwater, be close to the groundwater, especially not at the bottom. And then maintain the existing lawn on the side of it before we get to the BVW. The closest flag, I believe, is that A2 flag. I'm sorry, A3. So for reference, the existing pavement is right, it's about on this line here, the edge of the 1.5 foot stone, the stone apron and the stone trench. That's about where the existing edge of pavement is. So we've been pulling that back about 1.5 foot. And the flag from this point, the closest flag is the A3 flag, which is about 4 feet away. So we will have about 1.5 foot from the edge of the swale to where the BVW is. And we'll have the swale in there and the stone trench for treatment. So basically the runoff, it's going to be, the whole roadway will still be super elevated. So all the runoff will be coming down across this stone apron into the stone trench, and then spill over into the wet swale, and then either spill over during high storms, or in low storms will slow down and infiltrate, and near the bottom will just kind of flow out the way it does today and spill over into the BVW. So this is kind of the area. This is A2 doesn't show up on there. There's A3. Okay. So A3 flag is right here. That's the kind of the closest point to the roadway. Like I said, so that's where we're going to get our 4 foot separation approximately from the edge of the apron to that flag. The only other comment was, and I know we talked about it before, was moving the silt fence that was on the adjacent property of 98. And I didn't get a chance to do that on the plans, but we can certainly, so the silt fence will probably come up. The silt sock, we had it staked out up in front of this gentleman's lawn. So we'll probably have it come up and have it go along the base of this stone wall here, and have it come up in here to get it off of his lawn. We don't need it up there. This is upslope where the work is being done. So those are the changes I have. Questions or comments?
Sure. It looks like you've addressed pretty much everything we asked for.
Sorry, Tom, did you have a question for me or?
No.
Nope, okay.
I'm just saying that it looks like all the questions that, all the recommendations we've made been addressed.
I had two questions. Like, can you remind me again, like, what was the net on the trees? You're taking some down, but you're adding 12 back, or?
Yeah, so let me go to the tree plan. So the ones in red are coming down. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in this area. So those are the 12 trees we're taking down for the roadway and for where the infiltration system is going. So we're proposing 12 trees along the roadway, obviously once the work is done. And within the 50, these smaller trees, well, there's some, I think that's a 22-inch or a 12-incher there and a 6-incher, but the trees in the orange circles are being maintained. I think we were able to pull the infiltration system away from those and save those 3 trees there. So between the 50 and the 100, we get 12 trees coming down, we're replacing 12. So that's where that number comes from.
And one other question, I think this is great, like, what happens when water runs off the driveway out to the road? Can you explain that again a little bit?
So when it runs, so the whole driveway, as I said, is super elevated, meaning it's not a crown, so it goes from one side, it's graded from one side of the road to the other. So the last catch basin is right up in here, which is just beyond what we call Station 2. Station 00 is at the edge of the Howard Gleason Road. So we have about 200 feet of roadway, and I call it a roadway. That's where your typical roadway catch basins are typically spaced at, or at least try to be. This is it's a 16-foot wide, paved common driveway. So that's the last catch basin. Beyond this, there's really no stormwater. There were no stormwater controls before. We just had a berm on the side, and that was a concern that was brought up, was channeling all this water down the edge of the road and then just dumping it onto Howard Gleason Road. So with the new detail, we have the stone shoulder, which goes into a stone trench, which will help slow the water down, help clarify it. And then from that, smaller stones will probably just maybe stay in the stone trench and eventually, infiltrate into the ground. Larger events is going to overtop the stone trench and go into that wet swale, which will be on this, downslope side of the roadway. And once again, smaller storms, it'll run down the wet swale and eventually probably end up into the wetlands down at the base, which it does today. Or it will stay in the trench and it will infiltrate into the substrate.
And the roadway will be crowned then to make that possible, or?
Well, no, once again, it'll be what we call super elevated, meaning it's just pitched from one side of the driveway to the other. So there'll be no,
okay.
Because if we put a crown in it, the crown is usually in the middle of the road, so it's what us engineers call super elevated, meaning it's pitched from one side to the other. It's shown on the detail sheet like this here. So it goes so as you're looking up from Howard Gleason Road, the high side is going to be the left side and the low side is going to be the right side. So all the water is going to be going in that way. If you put a crown in the middle, the left side is going to be trapping water and it'll be just going out to Howard Gleason Road. I mean, this really isn't to scale. It's a 3% cross slope. It's certainly enough to get the water across, but with the naked eye, you can barely see it.
Yeah, thank you. That was helpful.
Hi, sorry, is that to me?
Some conditions that you proposed here.
Yeah, luckily nowhere near as many as the last few hearings.
Great.
So this is really more of a question in terms of feasibility, but also this property, Howard Gleason floods quite often in regular storm events and king tides. So I guess Brendan, I know you're not a driveway contractor, but do you think it would be feasible to put in a condition about either minimizing or not doing work during those large events to prevent any risk of sedimentation, erosion, damage to the wetlands? Because, there's wetlands obviously on one side of the driveway and then there's the marsh across the street. So I'm just worried that once everything starts getting ripped up and relocated, if there's a massive washout event, then all that dirt's going to go right into the salt marsh across the street. So I was trying to think of a way to mitigate this, maybe specific time of year restrictions, but I just figured keep it general and just say don't do any work during these events. I don't think those people are going to want to go out there and do that. It's just I'm concerned about stabilizing the site. So if it's feasible to put this first condition of not doing site work during king tide or large rainstorm events, and the site has to be stabilized before and after them. And then obviously any damage needs to be immediately repaired and coordinated, even potentially with a wetland scientist, depending on how, if we get like a massive storm, for example, how are we going to, fix that area? If that's feasible, I would recommend it. And then just two other basic, conditions that we're going to relocate the silt fence atop the yard area in 98 Howard Gleason Road to the bottom of the ledge outcrop and the slope close to the limit of driveway paving, and then just revise the site plan accordingly before you start construction. And then these are the inspections that I recommend in terms of, pre-construction, stormwater installation. These are all very standard, and I just added pre-paving just to make sure the limits of work are clearly defined before everyone starts paving. And then just a pre-landscaping inspection, and then final site inspection. But I guess it's really just asking about the first condition, if that's feasible and if the commission agrees.
When do you expect to start, on this, and what's your start completion schedule here?
It's hard to say, to tell you the truth. We're just filing for water and sewer applications. We've been approved from planning board since February, and unfortunately it was, this was another engineer's project that I kind of took over. So it's been a little bit of a slow process. I mean, it's not something we're going to start construction in August. If we were to get order conditions, today, it may be like a next fall project, a next spring project or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, unfortunately. The owner he's out of country. He's in, he's in Germany. So, for most of the time. So, I don't think it's anytime real soon, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that condition, Charlotte. It's condition number 1, during king tides or any other, large, if there's a northeast or a blizzard blowing in, we certainly don't want to be out there.
Yeah, it's probably common sense. They're not going to be out there anyway. It's just a matter of stabilizing the site.
Sometimes some of these do, sometimes it's not even a king tide. It could be just a higher tide. And
Yeah.
if you get a northeast wind blowing after a storm for a couple of days, it'll blow the water in. And I know it, so even without knowing, the tide could be, an 8-foot tide, but ends up being a 9.5-foot tide because the wind's just blowing out of the northeast in that
Right.
direction and just fills up.
Yeah, I wasn't,
So we can, assess as necessary, but I got no problem with that general condition as far as
yeah,
construction goes.
I know I was thinking about low tide, like doing the work only during low tide, but I didn't know if that was too extreme or not. But considering Howard Gleason floods quite often, I figured the larger, maybe, higher tide events or king tide events at the least. I don't know if we can, it's up to the commission. I do see a concern with if the site's not stabilized and there's some sort of storm, all that's going to slough off, across the street into
Right,
the salt
and
marsh.
I know we have the construction fence down that lower section. We can I forgot, did we even, and we can double up the silt sock down there as well.
Yeah, we doubled up in front of the wetland, and then, we could, if with the town's permission, could even put one across the street. I know the salt marsh parcel is town property, but we can think about it. Or I could just ask Brian for permission, it doesn't need to be a part of the order, but maybe we'll think about it and I can do that. But yeah, those are just the 3 conditions I had.
Okay.
The tides are predictable.
Sorry, Tom?
Tides are predictable.
Yeah, that's true.
Brendan points out that, of course, you can have a surge. So just by looking at the tide table, you should be able to figure out when your best month to work is. Spring's probably not a good time. That's when spring and fall is when we do have our highest tides.
Nope.
But it sounds like construction here is still a long ways off. But as long as you're mindful of this in your scheduling, in other words, consult the tide table before you start building here.
Yeah, you can restrict it to summer, before the, larger storm events come in the fall, and then after the spring, when I know we've had very wet past couple of years, but summer, the historically drier month time. If you guys wanted to see this work only done in the, the height of summer to early fall, that's probably when those contractors are going to be around anyway.
How long will it take to build the driveway?
I don't know that one either. Imagine how much ledge we're gonna run into and utilities and such. If we're gonna restrict it to, a calendar, I'd rather restrict maybe the first, say, 200 feet of road.
Yeah.
And because we have about 600 feet of road we're constructing here, and really the only, the portion, the first 200 feet is really the section that's, gonna be affected by the tide and storm surge.
Or we could say within the land subject to coastal storm flowage, and then you use that elevation mark as a
Yeah,
border.
that would be fine.
Yeah, that's good.
I think
If you
that's
did,
elevation 12.
10,
Oh, it's 10? Oh, sorry.
I think it's 10.
So do you want to keep this, or do you want to just say during, no work shall occur within land subject to coastal storm flowage, past, I don't know, it's up to you guys. Do you want to do calendar stuff, or do you want to just do storm stuff?
Well, if you're using the land subject to coastal storm flowage, you probably don't even have to worry about the tide because you're above it. Yeah.
September? Or
Yeah.
October?
No, September. We've had some good ones in October.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Last chance, commissioners.
So summer, so is that June 20th?
Yeah.
It's our beginning date.
I'm good with, mid-June. I think that's fair.
Can we say June 1st? Or is that, when are your spring tides, Tom? April, May?
I have to look on the tide table.
I feel like it is April and May.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Okay,
June 15th might give us a little bit of a border.
June 15th is good. Just after Flag Day.
There we go.
Yeah, if you're only having to worry about the first 200 feet, that's even less of an issue. Or
Yeah.
or whatever's covered by the storm flowage.
Okay. You guys good with that, commissioners? Just restricting the work within land subject to coastal storm flowage between June 15th and September 30th. Just no work in that time frame in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there. Sure, I'm on my page. Okay, so I move that we issue an order of conditions for NOI 2410 50 Howard Gleason Road. Conditions
With the, yep.
that are stated on screen and entered into the record. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we're gonna vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Andre Fernando,
Sandra Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. Do we need a variance to work within the 50, right?
Yep.
Okay, I move that we issue a variance or work within the 50 with our standard conditions. And are there any specific conditions, Charlotte, for that you devised for the 50, or will our standard conditions cover it?
I kind of just put everything in these conditions, but if you wanted to, have any
We don't need to have the same conditions in two documents that are covering the same.
Yeah, the variance is included in the order of conditions. I just, write a little blurb about it, basically.
So I move that we issue a variance for work within the 50 at 150 Howard Gleason Road. In a second.
Oh, sorry, Tom, it'd be 98 to 104 Howard Gleason Road.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
Getting ahead of yourself.
I am tired. So let me start again. Get the, well, that's right. So I move it to issue an order of conditions with the conditions as entered into the record for stormwater permit 2404, or NY 2404, and stormwater permit 2407 at 98, 100, 102, 104 Tower Gleason Road. I need a second again.
Second,
And roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
signing for Fernando.
Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre,
Tom Bell, that motion passes 4-0-0. And I move that to issue a variance for work within the 50 foot buffer at 98, 100, 102, 104 Howard Gleason Road. Wait a second.
second,
Gonna vote Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Tony Fernando,
Tony Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre,
Tom Bell, motion passes 4-0-0. And the show cause hearing for NOI 2404, stormwater permit 2407, 98, 100, 102, 104.
Oh, Tom, I think you have to, did you already vote to issue a stormwater permit and an order of conditions? Did you do that in the same motion?
So I move to issue a stormwater permit for SWP 2407 at 98 through 104 Howard Gleason Road. Have a second.
second,
Roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Fernando,
Tony Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre,
Tom Bell, that motion passes 4-0-0. So the public hearing for NOI 2404, stormwater permit 2407, 98, 100, 102, 104 Howard Gleason Road is now closed.
Great. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Brennan.
thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Good
You
night.
too.
I'm gonna go before I fall asleep. Next is a resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2410, 150 Howard Gleason Road. Continued from June 6th, 2024.
Okay. Hi, Mark. And hey, John, how's it going?
Can you hear me, guys? Okay?
Yep.
Excellent. Good. Well, hopefully this won't take too long. I know you've had a long night and I appreciate your time. So Mark Lewis from Capital Projects in Boston College, senior planner. So we were able to get all the stakeholders out for a walkthrough on June 26th, and I was able to stake out 3 distinct areas of importance, one being the front gate area, another being the middle section along the rock wall, I guess the ledge wall, and then the back, what we were going to put a gate in, but I'll call that the back road, access road area. I think it was a successful trip out there. I did mock-ups in each location, which Charlotte, I think if you can pull up the plans, we could go right to those. The only thing that I've really changed is quantities. The stakeholders really think that it's very important that we do get a continuous boundary marker around the property as best as we possibly can do it. And most of it would be in the cedar post and wire. And in most cases, I think we can get those in there. I was hanging off some ledges with my intern, putting some stakes in. So if we want to look at each location, we can start at the front gate, Charlotte, if you don't mind. And if we can go to the other A2, which is actually A3. I have two SB2s, I apologize. So the next page would be great. Yeah, so this one here. So if we take the front gate area, you see that I've staked along the boundary area. And I think we only need to do, we want to do a gate, of course, which we can do by right, I believe. and then run some ornamental fencing. I think we only need 6 sections that run from the left side of the gate up north to where the heavy vegetation begins. And then at that point, we would start using the fence and post, which is on that bottom photo C there. So you can see heavy vegetation, you can see the wetland flag A4, A7 beyond, and clearly the wetland is delineated beyond that. Of course, we know we can't do this anytime soon. Everything's pretty well overgrown, so we'd probably look to do this probably next spring, early next spring, when all the vegetation's gone. So we think that worked out pretty well in the front. So let's take a look at the next area. So this was a little more difficult. So I call this area C, but
Hey,
yes.
before we leave, I thought from the site visit that it would die into like almost like a rock formation. Is that still the case?
Yeah, Sanchi, we couldn't get that close to it, to be honest with you. So it kind of runs just beyond, and the rock happens probably like 25 feet beyond that. So we're not really anywhere near that with the ornamental fencing, because the property line runs a bit. We get closer to that as we come down in the area C area. So again, we're not going to be that close to it on that side, and we want to try to minimize how much of the ornamental fence we put out front anyway. So that would be easier to do. So the condition along what I call the C area runs, where Charlotte's pointing to, and I've tried to actually quantify how many we need, and it's looking like we would need upwards to 135 8-foot sections around the entire perimeter if we can get them in. In some cases, it might be difficult or impossible, but I was able to get a stake, and I went to each flag and I pulled off the flag line about 5 to 7 feet, depending on where I could get something into the ground. And I was able to get a stake in to the ground, which I found to be almost a miracle. I mean, if you look at that closely, like at photo D there, you can see clearly wetland flag A34. And I pulled the line, 5 to 7 feet inward, and I was able to get a stake into the ground. You can see it in the foreground there. And I tried to do them every 8 feet. We know it's not going to be that easy all the way along this, but we think it's possible. So, and that pretty much runs all the way from this point out to the front of the property. This condition is very similar. And as we get down towards the south, you'll see it opens up a little bit easier. So the last area, which I'm calling access road area D, this I think can be a win-win for us, because we don't want to put a gate there. We don't need to. Our property line is not even in where that road is. And you can see right now that the vegetation is already pretty much overgrown. So we'd love that, just to go back to nature. There's no need to have that roadway there. There's no if you look beyond, that's where the new house will be. The Herman's house would be up on the bluff there. So there's really no need for access there. I think he has access coming beyond the wetland on the other side. So there's really no need for that. I think if it just could overgrow, it would be great. And then if you're looking at photo F here, that's again the line coming across the roadway and going out towards the Ocean Way and the marsh. And that kind of goes, if you look at the plan for me, Charlotte up top, we're going to wrap that around. And we initially weren't going to go that far with it. And again, we're not exactly sure how far we can get down with it, because we start coming into beach play and things like that. But that's something we're willing to work with you on if we can get it to a certain point. No people really access this area. It's very difficult to get at. But again, our trustees really would like to just delineate our property the best way we can to keep people off it. And that's generally it. So if there's any questions or concerns, I'm certainly happy to entertain those.
Do you have any comments?
So for this one, I think it's simple enough where I think a pre-construction visit, just to walk the area and verify where everything's going, I think is sufficient. I mean, the work will definitely be done by hand. you
Has to
you
be,
know,
yeah.
you don't necessarily, you know, need to keep anything in any of these areas. So, at least for me, I'm personally okay with just walking, you know, where all the fence is gonna go. And I think that should pretty much do it. You know, this isn't a project that needs multiple site visits unless it's needed. And we technically already have a pre-construction visit in our template conditions. So I know I've been writing them very frequently, but at least in this case, I think you could probably just defer to our standard template unless we want to just incorporate any specific, you know, things you'd like me to inspect with, you know, possibly with Mark and John, or just Mark or just John. So
Yeah, we would definitely have John involved,
Yeah.
without question. I
okay.
mean, I was very surprised that I was able to do what I was able to do on my own without John's presence, because the wetland flags were there and it was easy enough. So I was really surprised on
Okay.
a very hot day to be able to get that done. So I was
Okay.
happy with that. And
So maybe just a pre-construction visit with you and with John to walk the limit of work and just, you know, make sure we know exactly where the post and wire fences are all going.
Absolutely.
That should be, yeah.
Sure. Happy to do it. See if there's anything else.
Okay. Be care to make a motion here.
All right, I'll make a motion to, hold on, I'll pull up the agenda. I'm making a motion to approve NOI 24-10 at 150 Howard Gleason Road. With the reference to the pre-construction site visit to be conducted by the agent, if she's able to.
With you know, with Mark and with John Zimmer, I think that's fine.
With Mark and Johnson. Right.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan,
Oh, I'm sorry. Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
motion passes 4-0-0.
Excellent.
We need a variance to work in the 50. I move that we issue a variance to work within 50-foot wetland buffer. We have a second.
Second,
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
I'm Bill, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. And that does it, right, Charlotte? So,
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure to work with you, particularly Charlotte. We'll be in touch. And,
Yes,
let's
we'll
get this-
do.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I may not be able to start this until September if you guys are okay with that.
No problem. I
All
won't
right.
bother you until then. All right. Thank
No
you
worries.
again. All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
Take
night.
care. All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
NOI 24-10, Howard Gleason Road is now closed.
Oof. All right. COCs and Sanjay, I know we're missing Valerio tonight, so since you're the applicant for this one, are you okay with continuing to 7:25 for that one?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Valerio was also sick and he has the flu, and I told him not to call in because you know, right before, and then I didn't realize that I forgot that Sanjay had his COC at the end. I was like, oh no. But I didn't want him to call in with a fever and the flu and throwing up, you know, so yep. Explains why I didn't hear from him. And then the NOI 13-10 for 91 Doan Street. This one's easy. This one was you know, typical septic project that was you know, approved, order of conditions issued, closed out with Board of Health. They got an as-built, they got a COC and everything, and then everyone forgot about the order until a housing sale. The only thing I want to check real quick is if we want to issue any ongoing conditions, but I did check the as-built. You know, they've had you know, septic reports, you know, Title V, it's passed inspection for the sale. So at least for me, I have no concerns. But I will just pull up the order real quick, just to see if we want to issue any ongoing conditions. The numbering is usually different sometimes, so that's why I'll just, quickly see where the herbicide condition is. So with this one, it was. All right, it was condition 35. So yeah, no pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers. Yep. So that would be the one condition I'd recommend as ongoing. The rest of these were all template conditions at the time, and I don't think they pertain to the work anymore.
So, I move to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 1310 at 91 Doan Street. For the second,
With condition 35.
condition 35.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Bill, aye. The motion passes 4-0-0. And NOI certificate of compliance for NOI 1531.
Okay.
And for 70 to 123 Atlantic Avenue.
Yep, so this one was the original order of conditions for Treats Pond. It was filed back in 2015. Basically, the reason why they never did it back then is because they were trying to get all of the easements and permissions from all the property owners, and I think one or two weren't signing off or whatever. The work just wasn't done. So basically, the order expired, and then obviously, as you guys saw, they came back in 2022 with all the permissions, got a new order of conditions. That one's active. So this order is now invalid, and it's just recorded. And the reason why I did talk to Brian Joyce about closing it out because it was coming up in housing sales, and so people were asking, if they had to close it out. I think since it's an invalid order, there's no harm in closing it out because the current one's still open. And then it'll maybe not hit as many of the housing sale searches for 79 to 123 Atlantic Ave. So it would just be a COC with no ongoing conditions because there's already a current one in place.
Issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 1531, 79 through 123 Atlantic Avenue.
Second.
So Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, puts aye. That motion passes 4-0-0.
Right. These are easy ones. And then last but not least, I think Tom and Chris, so this one was, your stereotypical NOI stormwater project with house additions, et cetera. I did walk around with Jeff Hassett. He did try to FaceTime me and, show me around, and it was nice of him to do that in 90-degree weather. He did his best, but in speaking with Tom and Chris, it's just not really a thorough review, I think, to look at projects like this, for septic housing kind of sales, it makes sense. But if you guys want me to do a more thorough final inspection, it might be good to hold off on this one and any other, not urgent permits that need to be closed out because, people can send me photos and I can walk the sites. And the one you saw earlier tonight was such a small area. I was like, yeah, let's take photos because that's easy. But a site like this where I have to walk around the whole site, I don't know. I figured we can, hold this one off. And I did talk to Jeff about that we'll try to tentatively put it on for one of the meetings in September, and I'll bring it back to you guys. And then I'm just going to I already notified Marilyn Morse, but I'm just going to send a follow-up email and just say, until at least after Labor Day, no COCs until, I can walk again, and unless it's not a super urgent housing sale. Do you guys kind of agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might be, but I could do my one, or
I think yours is fine.
Okay.
Unless the commission
that might be a little
disagrees.
biased, but yeah.
I think yours is
can either
fine.
way. Okay.
Yours was also a relatively small project, and you took photos of all the plantings. So we'll discuss next week, but or next time. But yours was, I think, okay.
Thank you.
It's really the ones that are like a raise and rebuild and it involves all this like stuff. I'm like, I can't, no.
Yeah,
So,
makes sense.
all right. So you guys okay with continuing that one tentatively until September?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it for COCs.
Yes.
Quick and easy.
They're not out on the road.
Oh no, I missed one. I'm sorry. I did miss one. Stormwater permit 1915 for 149 King Street. So now that we've issued a stormwater permit under a new owner who's going to plant the 20 trees, we're going to keep them, preserve them. Everything's going to be done. I think we can finally close this ancient one that's been, you know, consuming our time.
Yeah. Okay, so I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for stormwater permit 1915 149 King Street.
Second,
Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanji Fernando. You're muted, Sanji.
All right, Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. Passes 4-0-0.
All right, sorry, now we're done with COCs. You want me to quickly go through my updates? All right, 472 King Street, the, Glenn Pratt's project, they started construction. And so far, as far as I'm aware, everything's going well. Their barriers all looked good. 94 Black Horse Lane, Tom and Chris, I'll email this to you. There are some water utility changes that they talked about with DPW and they want to loop some of the utilities around. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it yet, but I will definitely let you know. And then 46 Border Street, they did install for the roof work, they installed all of the proper controls to keep the site a nice big bubble to prevent any debris and anything from flaking off into the ocean. I looked at photos, but I also had John Hallen go out there and make sure everything was okay from a building safety OSHA perspective that I don't get involved with. And then 49 Border Street, they are pretty much almost done. The one change that they've made recently is due to, I think cost preferences and everything else. They don't want to do the permeable pavement, but they are going to do pavers. And pavers actually have a better curve number than porous pavement. So it will be an improvement and it'll also be much easier for maintenance. The only thing I'm going to require them to do as part of the COC for that is they have to update the long-term operation and maintenance plan, give that back to me, record it, and then, we'll entertain a COC for the stormwater permit whenever they're done. But at least for me, that was a good change because I think, realistically, people maintaining porous pavement driveways, it's a lot to ask. So I think that was a really good change that they made. And then the only other update I had is, unfortunately, my my master plan for the regulations, I think just kind of crashed and burned, with my injury. It hasn't really been easy to adjust to working 100% remotely. We've had to, Angela and John, my offices, they've all been great with accommodating this for me and helping me out. So in doing that, it's just been really hard to focus on the regulations. So what I'm going to try to do is kick this back up in the late fall and winter when hopefully things are a little bit more quiet. I've definitely started it to a good point. It's just, it involves 150+% focus. And you can't do that with everybody calling my phone every 30 minutes. It's just the work, the show must go on even when I'm injured. So, but I'm still trying to prioritize this as best I can. I do think that I can get it done. It's just a matter of picking it back up again. So, but yeah, I know we've had a lot of really good conversations about herbicides. So that's the one section that may or may not get done, which is fine because I think we can have that conversation in the future.
Okay.
That's it.
Which is a reminder to all of us, we're supposed to be doing our homework on this, the reading list that was provided by the applicant from Nichols Road.
Yeah.
Let's have our.
Oh, are you talking about 35 Nichols, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they appealed, the abutters appealed. There was a DEP investigation the week I was undergoing surgery. I did talk to DEP afterwards. Pretty much it's the reason why they appealed is they were more upset about the ongoing drainage issues rather than the pool project itself. So their issues seem to be outside of DEP's jurisdiction because the drainage problems are outside of the 100-foot buffer.
That's not what I was talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's talking about the invasives on the residential.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. I thought you were talking about 35 Nichols.
No, the people that want to clear out their invasives on the coastal bank and.
Oh, that's Little Harbor. Sorry.
Oh.
24 Little Harbor. Yeah.
We could put that off until our science experiments done.
But yeah, sorry. Anyway, 35 Nichols Road, that can be a 48-hour update. The abutter appealed the permit. It's going through DEP appeal process, but DEP, has kind of identified their issues are outside of their jurisdiction. Who knows if they're going to appeal to court? I don't know.
Okay.
Any more 48-hour updates?
I don't have any.
No? Okay.
Right now.
Cool.
Hey,
Tired.
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, everyone in favor? Say
Aye.
aye.
Good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Yeah.
Have a great night. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Bye.
Thank you, Charlotte.